And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Matthews versus Hallmark. Step forward.
Department store worker Sharon Matthews is suing her friend's ex-boyfriend, mechanic George Hallmark, for damage to her car. Sharon claims George power braked, spraying her car with rocks.
What's your name?
Cynthia Dodd.
Dodd? Mm-hmm. I assume from what I read, Miss Matthews, that Miss Dodd was the friend that you were referring to in your complaint. Is that right? You were helping, according to you, Miss Dodd move out of Mr. Hallmark's residence. They had been boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that right? She called you and asked you, or came over to your home and asked you if you would go over and accompany her while she retrieved some of her property.
Yes.
Because I assume, well, step up for a moment. I assume, Miss Dodd, that you were separating from Mr. Hallmark and it was not a friendly separation. Is that right?
Correct.
How long had you been together?
About 7 months.
You were living in his house?
Yes.
Just the two of you?
Yes.
When did you decide to leave?
When he threw me out.
What date?
The 11th of February.
Had you had an argument?
Yeah, I was taking him to work, and he told me to get out of his car and just go away. So I called her mother-in-law and had her come pick me up.
Where did you have her pick you up?
Across the street from his work, where he put me out of his car.
And from there, where did you go?
To her mother-in-law's home.
Then there came a time when you went back to his house, is that right, to collect some of her property?
Yes.
And that was also on the 11th?
No, this was on the 23rd of February of this year.
Had you made arrangements with Mr. Hallmark to go back and get your things on that
Your
date?
Honor.
Tell me about that.
I called and asked him if it would be okay if I came and picked up a few things, and he said that'd be fine.
What things did you want to get?
Just some clothes.
You hadn't gotten any clothes?
No, ma'am.
Did Miss Dodd call you on the 23rd and ask you if she could come over, Mr. Hallmark?
Sure did.
And you said it was okay?
Yeah.
And what happened when she got there?
She got her things. As we were leaving, I pulled up next to her and I said, "Nice car, Sharon."
Okay. That's what we're getting. Just a second. So you got your things inside.
Yes.
And it's your claim, Miss Matthews, that at some point during that interchange of property, Mr. Hallmark damaged your car.
Yes, he did.
Now we're going to take it step by step, because he says he didn't, and if he did, it was an old car, or it was an accident. You know, there are a couple of defenses here. He's going to give all of them to me when it's his turn, right?
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you went inside to the house, and you got your things.
Yes.
Did you have any words with him?
Yeah, I asked him to please not start yelling at me like he usually does and threatening me.
Well, what did you say to him, and what did he say to you? She was waiting outside. You were waiting outside?
Yes, I was waiting outside, and I told her, if anything happens, just yell really loud. Or otherwise, if you take too long, I will be out there to knock on the doors, because we got to go.
Okay. So she went into the house, you went and knocked at the door, and what happened, Miss Dodd, when you knocked at the door?
I asked George if it was all right if I came in and got some stuff, and he said that'd be fine. Then he asked me why I was doing this, and I said, because you threw me out. And I asked him, please stop yelling and don't,
Was he yelling at that point?
He's starting to raise his voice, and he's known to be loud.
Okay. What happened next?
And then he kind of calmed down, and so I finished getting my things, and I got outside.
You brought your things outside?
Correct. To Sharon's car.
Did you put them in the car?
Yes.
What happened next?
We started to back out, and he walked up to her and said, "Oh, nice car," because she'd just got her car.
No,
like
she
2
was
days.
in the. You weren't in the car yet. You were over at your car in the front of the driveway.
I didn't. Just a second.
I'm sorry.
Was she in your car?
I was next to the car.
You were standing next to the car.
Yes.
Now tell me what happened.
Okay, because she had her vehicle that he had pushed out in the road and had towed away like the next day or something, but that's beside the point.
Well, then don't give me what's beside the point. I have to stick to the point. I'm old.
Okay, sorry, but okay, she had walked out to her vehicle and was trying to get into it, but she didn't have the keys, and that's when I backed out of the driveway. And after I backed out and I pulled up just towards her car, going the opposite direction, that's when George went out the driveway too, but he was going up next to my car, and that's when he said something like, "Nice car, does it run good," or something to that effect.
Did you answer him?
No, I didn't say anything. I just turned up my radio. And at that point, she came into my car and got in the vehicle because she didn't have the keys to her car. And he went around me, and at that point, it goes down to where it Y's off. You have to go one way or the other, and there's like dirt and gravel right there at the end of the street. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it seemed like a long time, but it was about 30 seconds where he had power braked his car, and he kept his foot on the brake and put his foot down on the gas and just kept burning out. It seemed like forever because I thought my window had broken quite a few times the way it cracked and it hit the windshield and it hit the front end of my car.
Pebbles?
Yeah, well, there's like rocks and dirt and everything down. It's not a very good street.
You have pictures of the damage to the car?
Yes, I have one picture on it.
What time of the day was this?
It was about approximately 7:30 p.m.
After he revved up his car and caused this debris to go on your car, did he leave?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hallmark, now I'll hear you, sir.
Pardon me?
I'll hear you.
Can you repeat that?
I will hear you.
Okay. What do you want to hear?
I want to hear your version of the events of the 23rd of February, sir.
Yeah? Here's a picture of the corner.
No. I don't want to see a picture of the
You don't
corner. I
wanna
want
see
you
a
to tell
picture
me
of the
what
corner?
happened.
She came, got her stuff. She was putting her stuff in the car, and I pulled up next to her and I go, "Oh, nice car, way to go." I went on up to the corner and took off. I punched the gas, and it got rocks. But she was still putting her gun in the trunk. And I don't know. The next thing she never asked me to repair it. She never showed me the damage.
What kind
Next
of work?
thing I know, I get this
Stop
paperwork.
Stop it. What kind of
that
work?
I'm being sued.
Mr. Hallmark, what kind of work do you do for a living, sir?
Mechanic.
What kind of mechanic?
Mechanic.
Well, there are all kinds of
Automotive,
mechanics.
trucks.
Automotive.
Equipment.
Okay. Are you self-employed or do you work for someone?
Yeah, self-employed.
Where do you work out of, sir?
My house.
So you have a garage in your house?
No, I have a garage at my house.
Did you file tax returns last month?
You know what? You guys can laugh at someone else. I'm out of here.
Okay. Ms. Matthews, the defendant has chosen to leave, but I've heard enough after hearing the facts of this case and seeing his demeanor and temper to determine that he maliciously caused damage to your car.
Your Honor,
And
I'm sorry, ma'am.
You're suing for $700
Yeah.
for a paint job? That's a reasonable amount. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. We'll see someone escorts you out. Thank you.
Can
That's
you
all.
make sure he's not out there?
Yes, we'll
Thank
make
you.
sure someone escorts you outside.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's very unpredictable.
That's exactly him. He's crazy. He's very irrational.
He has mood swings very badly.
He's a crazy man.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Baker versus Terry, step forward.
Rehab counselor Vicki Baker is suing her former neighbors, Byron and Mary Terry, for damage to her Chevy Lumina. Vicki says the couple drove the vehicle during a hailstorm.
Miss Baker, you agreed to sell the defendants a used car that you had, according to what I read. They had the car for some time. They made some payments on the car. And then, according to you, they stopped making payments on the car, so you repossessed it.
Yes, ma'am.
And after you repossessed it, Mr. and Mrs. Terry sued you for all the money that they had paid into the car, which was, I believe, about $1,400. Is that right? And how much had you paid?
$18 and $50.
And how long did you have the car?
We had the car for roughly about 3.5 to 4 months.
Okay. Now you want them to pay for the damage that was done to the car while it was in their possession as a result of being driven in a hailstorm.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. and Mrs. Terry said, you live in Oklahoma, for heaven's sakes. That's what happens in Oklahoma. There are hailstorms. You're not responsible for the hailstorms. That's your defense.
Partly. There's more to it.
That's the defense that I read here. That it's a hailstorm and you're not responsible for an act of God. Now, Miss Baker, when did you agree to sell them the car? Give me the month and year.
December 4th of 2003.
And you took it back sometime in March?
Actually, no, it was April 2nd.
And when you got the car back, describe the damage to me.
I have photos of the damage, Your Honor.
Can I see it, please?
The automobile was damaged all over with hail damage.
Okay.
I have photos of the car, the storm and the damage, and also an estimate for over $3,000.
Do you know when this hailstorm was?
Yes, March 17th.
Car. Yeah.
Were there other cars damaged, Miss Baker, in Oklahoma where you live by this hail?
Yes, ma'am.
How many hundreds of cars were damaged?
Probably many.
So why do you think the Terrys are responsible?
Because in the agreement, they were responsible for any damages as well as to insure the car, which they did through Geico. And then I had asked them to take care of the damages with their insurance, and they did not.
Now, after March 17th, did they make any payment to you? When was the last payment?
March 12th, Byron paid me $200, which totaled $1,400.
No, I just asked you when the last payment that they gave you was.
March 12th.
Why did you stop making payments after March 12th?
We didn't, and we have proof. What happened was when we bought the car, we put like a large amount of money down, and then she gave us a copy of the title, and it said there was a lien on it, and she kept convincing us to double up on payments, like, and harassing me at work.
Just a second,
Your Honor.
just a second. I asked a simple question. It doesn't require a story.
Okay.
It requires an answer. Why didn't you make any payments after March the 12th?
The last payment
As a
was
matter
on-
of fact, I was sitting in jail, ma'am. I won't lie to you. I wasn't capable of writing her a check. My wife was handing her cash. She gave my wife no receipts, which I told my wife, don't give her no cash if she ain't going to give you no receipt, because it ain't going to do you no good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Vicki Baker says former neighbors Byron and Mary Terry owe for damage to a car they were subleasing. Vicki says the car was dented during a hailstorm.
The question is, did you make any payments or did you not make any payments after March the 12th?
No, I'm sorry.
So the answer is no.
Right.
Now, when, Miss Baker, the Terrys sued you for the return of their money, you already had possession of the car, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you, in fact, counterclaim for damage to the car?
Not during that suit, no.
Why not?
I tried to, and they said it was too late to countersue, that I
All
had
right.
to make a new suit.
When did they sue you? In what month?
May 28th.
So you had already had the car back for almost 3 months.
April 2nd, no, I would have had the car back for about 6 weeks.
And when was the court case heard?
The court case was actually heard on May 28th. So the suit may have came just a little bit before that.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. When did you file suit for the return of your money?
When did I file suit?
No. Damn.
In April.
And when was she served?
The weekend after I filed suit, after I got out of jail.
Sometime in April.
Yes, ma'am.
So you had at least 4 or 5 weeks. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
After you got notice that you were being sued. And you had at least 6 or 7 weeks to sue them for the damage to your car. So my question to you, Miss Baker, is why didn't you do it?
I was hoping that they would take the car. All along, I have offered them back the car for the $1,000 that they owed on the car. And so I have no use for this car, so I was hoping that they would do the original agreement, which was to pay the $2,400.
What did you do in order to convey that to them?
I spoke
Did
to
you-
them twice
And
in person.
Just a second.
Okay.
Spoke to them twice after you repossessed the car.
Yes.
On April 2nd.
And also
Did
the
I-
police. Pardon me.
Did either Mr. or Mrs. Terry indicate to you that they were prepared to continue paying the additional $1,000 that you claimed they owed?
Mary's statement was, no, I will not give you another dime.
Okay.
Byron said, no, I'm leaving state. I have no need for the car. I'm fixing my truck. So they
Fine.
changed their mind.
So the answer is
No.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
So then my question to you is, why didn't you sue them?
I did.
No.
Ma'am,
You
I'm
didn't
a...
sue them. Listen to me.
Okay.
You didn't sue them until after they sued you for the return of some of their money. That's when you sued them. You saw the car was damaged the day you took it back, on April 2nd. So if you believed that you had a legitimate case, you would have been in court immediately, as you were now, to file a case against them because they damaged your property that you had repossessed. You chose not to do that.
Ma'am, I didn't know we had hard feelings. I thought this would be friendly throughout the entire thing.
What, Miss Baker? I don't know where you're at, madam. After you took back the car, they sued you. At what point did you think it was friendly? Where's the car now?
In my possession.
Good. What are you doing with it?
I have offered it back to the Terrys. I'm letting it sit until we decide what to do. Your Honor, may I speak, please, on this situation? I befriended these kids. They moved in next door to me.
I don't care about that. That's not what this is about.
Okay.
That's a story once upon a time. Right now what I have is you sold them a car. they were friends, next door neighbors, you liked, whatever. Sold them a car. You took the car back for non-payment.
No, ma'am, I took the car back because she sent me a letter refusing payment.
She said she wasn't going to pay you anymore.
Right, yes.
Fine.
Yes.
So I paid you enough, and I'm
I
not
did
paying
not-
anymore. Shh.
Okay.
Not paying anymore. This has been resolved in another court.
Right.
I'm not dealing with that. You took the car back. You did nothing when you took the car back until after they sued you for some of the money that they had invested in the car.
Ma'am,
that's what happened.
I did it as quickly as I could because I am a very, very busy self-employed person. To drive 2 hours to go down and sue someone when I knew I had until May 28th, I didn't see any hurry in doing that.
Well, I don't see any hurry in responding to it, madam. It's an act
they
of God.
damaged my car.
No, they did not damage your car.
My car did not get hail damaged, and many cars did not because most of us know to pull over during a hailstorm and park our cars somewhere else. It's only those who drive. Mary was at work.
To be in a hailstorm.
Mary was at work, and she chose to drive home in that hailstorm. She bragged to me how she drove 70 miles an hour in the hailstorm. She could have chose to stay at work and let the hailstorm pass, and the car wouldn't have been damaged as it was.
Did you drive intentionally in this hailstorm at 70 miles an hour? Is she crazy?
Well,
is she crazy?
I was petrified I was going to break through my windshield. I never drove in one
Nobody
before.
drives. Nobody drives
come you didn't
70
stay
miles an
home?
hour in a hailstorm, Miss Baker.
How come she didn't stay at the office and wait for the hailstorm to pass if she was terrified?
Miss Baker,
I was on my way
how
home
come
from
she
daycare
doesn't
picking my
live
kid.
in Florida, where there are no hailstorms that I know about? I don't know why. The heavens opened up. Golf ball size hail came down, damaged your car as well as hundreds of others. They're not responsible for that. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused when they step out.
These kids refused to make payments when Byron went to jail, and they sued me for payments, and I've offered them the car back.
She was spending the money on herself and her daughter that should have been for the car payment, and now she tries to sue us. She needs therapy.
I wasn't going to cover her cheating on her husband and doing different things, and she got angry with that, and I asked her to leave me, and it was after that the lawsuit came.
She wanted me to lie on my tax return, so we got in a fight and I left.
They took their $4,000 tax return and bought a new car. She changed her mind.
This woman is a pathological liar, and that is why she lost 2 court cases, because her stories are good, but they're not true.
25-year-old home appraiser Amanda Knockhart is suing her ex-boyfriend, 27-year-old basketball coach Ethan Jordan, for a loan, a trip to Las Vegas, and for kicking her in the ribs.
Yes, this is case number 243 on the calendar in the matter of Knockhart versus Jordan. Prior to Ms. Sworn in, Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Knockhart, Mr. Jordan is your former roommate, and it is your claim in this lawsuit that he owes you for a whole bunch of stuff.
Correct.
Mr. Jordan says he owes you for absolutely nothing, and you got to get on with your life. Get over it and get on with your life. When was he your roommate?
He moved in August of 2003 through June of 2004.
And how long had you known him before he became your roommate?
Probably about a month.
Was your relationship with him solely that of landlord and tenant?
No.
So you had a social relationship with him as well?
No.
What?
A love relationship?
I said social.
Social?
Yes.
Sure.
Well, is that a question?
No.
That's a statement. So you had a social relationship with him as well. Is that right, Mr. Jordan?
Not entirely, Your Honor. I sometimes slept on the couch, but for the most part, we did share a bedroom.
Okay, so you had a social relationship, but you paid rent.
No, ma'am.
You did not pay rent.
I moved in with the understanding that I would not pay rent or find any costs in her bills.
Oh, that's interesting. So you weren't a tenant because the word tenant implies that you pay rent.
Yes, ma'am.
So
correct.
you just lived together. I mean, I was confused about the statements. You lived together, and he did not pay rent.
He did not pay rent, but the agreement was that he was supposed to maintain the automobile and the maintenance of that. And
Whose automobile?
Mine.
Supposed to maintain a car.
Right.
Is that your agreement?
That agreement wasn't up until, let's say, January.
So from August of 2003 until January of 2004, Mr. Jordan, what you're telling me is you were just sponging.
No, Your Honor. It was all her idea.
Oh, no, I didn't know her idea. I didn't ask whose idea it was. I said, just listen to my question, Mr. Jordan. According to you, from August 2003 till January 2004, you paid no rent, you paid no bills, you paid no car insurance, you didn't have any responsibility with regard to the car. So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That makes you a sponge.
Okay.
Right?
I would
That means
disagree.
that as far as I'm concerned, there must be something really hidden about you that I don't see. What? Whatever. Okay. Now, he's a sponge.
Yes.
That makes you pretty dumb. Right?
No.
Sure it does. You know somebody a month, you invite them to come into your home, they pay you nothing. Must do something. Do you have a big home?
No, he was supposed to get a check that was mailed to his ex-girlfriend's house. That's why I never saw the money.
Look, you say, I met him, he moved in.
Correct.
And you agreed that he could use my car to get to and from work if he paid the insurance and the maintenance. That's what you say.
That's right.
So evidently he worked, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Usually when you have a job, you make what?
Yeah, but he got fired.
Money. And when you have a job and you make money, you take care of your expenses, like rent and food and electric and gas, unless, you know, you're a sponge. So according to you, he did not pay for the insurance on the car.
No.
So why don't you throw him out?
Well, he was supposed to be getting a big check, like I said, for $2,000, and the check was mailed somewhere else instead of our residence, and he apparently spent the money.
And when did he get the check?
February.
Well, what happened in February when you knew he got the check and he spent the money on something else? Did you throw him out?
No, he had another job at that time finally and was supposed to get the paychecks. Then he got arrested and his lawyer that he owed money to was suing him. I couldn't get any of it at that point.
At that point, what you're supposed to say is, I am a reasonably intelligent person.
Right.
I'm living with somebody that's taking advantage of me. Get out.
Right.
Unless you're in love and everything is going to work out okay and you're really not interested in the money, you're really interested in the relationship, and the only reason you come to a point where you're interested in the money is because you're not together anymore.
No, he did start staying at a friend of his house more often.
When?
That was in May, because...
I'm talking about February, March, April.
Okay.
Nothing. Goodbye. All right. What's next? What else does he owe you money for?
A vacation that we took together and for medical bills.
All right. So let's go to the vacation. When was the vacation?
February.
Where did you go?
Las Vegas.
For how long?
February 22nd to the 29th.
You wait to drink later. And was he working at the time?
He was going to Las Vegas to work.
Was he working at the time?
Nowhere else, no.
And what was your arrangement?
He was working the convention there, the magic show, and when he returned...
What do you do for a living?
Your Honor, I have always, since she's known me, maintained an occupation as a basketball coach at the YMCA. I still work there today.
What were you doing in Las Vegas?
Oh, I model for a clothing company.
So you were modeling?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get paid?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. How much did you get paid? Do you remember?
Not entirely, not exactly. I think it was like $1,500, some give or take.
And who paid for all the expenses to Vegas?
To Vegas, she did.
Well, why didn't you compensate her for that?
When I got the news that I was going to Vegas, I had all my... They flew me out. They flew me out. They would room me, pay for airfare. I had a place to go. She decided that she wanted to go to Vegas. We sat down. We planned out the whole trip. Okay. When we got to Vegas, her and I would disagree, as usual. And she went one way and I went another. I stayed with a friend. That's it.
How many days were you there?
In the hotel room, I think I stayed one day.
Okay. How many days?
One.
Okay. So you put him out after one day?
No. He only stayed one night away from me. He tried leaving me in the middle of Las Vegas by myself. Yeah. So I tried catching a flight home, which would have costed me a lot more money than...
How did you get to Vegas? Did you fly?
Yeah.
You flew. Well, his ticket was paid for.
No, it wasn't. I have the credit card receipts right here.
Oh, well, she says it wasn't paid for. Did
Your Honor,
were you reimbursed by the company for your airfare there?
Normally they would have, but I opted to go with her since she wanted to go with me.
Yeah, right.
Ooh, he slipped. All right, how much was his plane ticket?
$345 for
His
the
plane
airfare.
ticket. Okay. And how much was the hotel room?
$214.76.
For both of you?
No, I divided all the costs by 2.
So it's clear to me that you were compensated, Mr. Jordan, for that. If you weren't, you were paid $1,500, probably plus expenses. You got the check. I assume you got the check to cover your expenses as $559. So far, you're off $559 for this trip to Las Vegas. What else does he owe you for? Don't say anything else. I'm giving you so far every benefit of the doubt, more benefit of the doubt than I usually would give to somebody who acts so dumb. What else does he owe you for?
The rental car.
Listen to me. Leave Las Vegas. Get on to something else.
Doctor bill.
Now, tell me about the doctor bill.
Ethan abused me, and I had to go to the doctor's.
When?
5/8.
Tell me what happened on May 8th.
He kicked me in the ribs, broke 2 of my toes, threw me.
Well, tell me about the argument.
I don't know what actually the argument was about.
And how did the verbal argument escalate into a physical argument?
He came dashing from the living room, charging at me.
And?
Threw me against the kitchen cabinets, picked me up, threw me on the floor, spit on my face, and kicked me in the ribs.
Did you call the police?
I called my friend to come get me.
Did you call the police?
Not at that point.
When, after May 8th, did you call the police and report it?
I had a personal protection order put out on him on July 22nd. I didn't call the police on that incident.
Why not?
I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry.
Mr. Jordan, you want to tell me what happened on May 8th?
Your Honor, I do remember the fight that we got into. I don't remember why I attacked her, but I do know that that was not the only incident that became physical between either one of us.
Did you suffer any injuries on May 8th, Mr. Jordan?
Your Honor, I've got scratches all over me, but I didn't go to Courtroom, I didn't go to the hospital or anything like that.
I see the doctor's report. Did you take her to the hospital, doctor, or whatever?
I don't remember her going to the hospital.
No, I took myself there, Your Honor.
Okay. Miss Knockhart, after May 8th, you went back to live with him.
He started staying... No.
Are you telling me that between May 8th and June, which is when you said you separated, because you said you separated in June...
Correct.
You didn't live together at all?
I stayed at my mom's a lot more because...
I'm not asking you a lot more. I'm asking you at all, Miss Knockhart.
Not that day or not the next day.
What about the third day?
Yes.
And when you went back the third day, did you share a room together?
No.
Not ever between May 8th and June when he...
Yes.
Ah.
Once or twice.
Miss Knockhart,
Yes.
I have no idea what this bill is for. This says that the closing date of the statement is May 8th. The doctor says that he saw you on April 23rd with regard to an assault. I would have assumed that if somebody broke your toes during the course of an assault, you would remember the month and date that it took place.
Yeah.
Well, I would assume that. Listen, are you her mother?
Yes, I am.
She lives by herself?
Yes.
How old is she?
25.
She's probably not old enough to live by herself.
No, she's more than capable. Her
I don't
judgment
think-
and men aren't that good.
Her judgment isn't that good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Linda Knockhart says her ex-boyfriend Ethan Jordan beat her up and broke her ribs. She's also suing for a loan and a trip to Las Vegas.
Where are you living now, Mr. Jordan?
I live with my brother.
You pay him rent?
No.
Is not an answer.
No, ma'am, I don't.
Why not?
Because he's my brother. He helped me out of this relationship.
Does your brother work?
He's a doctor.
And you just told me a moment ago that you've been working continuously.
Yes, ma'am. I have 2 jobs myself.
What is it with you that you think that other people are supposed to take care of you?
I don't believe that.
I'm not talking about her. Let's forget her for a second.
Okay.
How old are you?
27.
Grow up. Responsibility. You're supposed to pay your way. You're not supposed to spend all the money that you make on clothes. Sir, do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Listen, your mother says that you have lousy judgment in men. You better start getting better judgment in men. So far, the only thing he owes you is $559 for the trip to Vegas. That's his expenses because I think he was reimbursed those expenses and you expected them. I can't figure out whether you were assaulted or when you were assaulted or what it was all about because you brought no proof of that. So, exercise better judgment in the future. That's my decision. Judgment for the plaintiff, $559. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
For her to let me live that long with her, drive her car, you know what I'm saying? She says I beat her up and she didn't make any kind of police report. It speaks for itself.
I think he just used me and he wanted somewhere to stay for free, and now he's found somewhere else to freeload.
The violent, tumultuous relationship. I didn't talk about how fish hook I was beat with, or you know what I'm saying, spoons and whatever that was thrown at me. So I'm just happy that's all done over.
Of course, he's got to make me look bad because look at how he appeared in the courtroom. So
I wish her the best. I have no hard feelings for her, man. I hope she gets, you know, whatever's coming to her.
National Guard Administrator Wendy Moore is suing homemaker Nelda Bailey for her son's medical bills and car repair bills. Wendy says Nelda's daughter was killed when the girl drove her car without permission and rolled it. Nelda's countersuing for her daughter's funeral expenses.
Quiet in the courtroom.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Wendy Moore says homemaker Nelda Bailey owes for her son's medical bills and car repair bills due to an accident caused by Nelda's deceased daughter.
Madam.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Birch. Step forward.
20-year-old student Kimberly Johnson is suing her former friend, 22-year-old retail manager Michael Birch, for bailing him out of jail when he was arrested for unpaid traffic tickets.
Ms. Johnson, according to your complaint, Mr. Birch owes you for a loan. The loan was for bail money.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Birch says it was a nice gesture, but there was never a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's up to me to find out the truth, right?
You're right.
Because I know the truth. So I have a few questions for you, Mr. Birch. What were you in jail for?
Traffic.
What, you were making traffic?
No, a ticket, unpaid ticket.
Huh?
Unpaid ticket.
An unpaid traffic ticket?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of traffic tickets?
More than one.
Look, don't look down. Look over here, because, Mr. Birch, let's go back a second. How many children are in your family?
I have 2 brothers, 1 sister.
And where does your mom live?
My mom lives in Georgia.
Is she a good mom?
Yes.
You think your mother is a truth machine? Does your mother always tell when the children were telling a lie or telling the truth? She's smart?
Not all the time.
I am. How long were you in jail for a traffic ticket?
Not 4 or 5 hours.
And tell me how you came to be placed in jail.
Well, there was a warrant for my arrest, which I didn't know about.
And what was the nature of your traffic infraction, sir?
Unpaid park tickets. I ran a couple lights in a hurry. Speeding, a couple cases.
Now, how old were these tickets, Mr. Birch?
One was maybe a year old.
Why didn't you pay it?
Time passed by. I cut it in the moment.
So I assume at some point they revoked your license.
Yes.
And when was that?
Around March.
And you continued to drive the car?
Yes.
Which you know is a crime.
Yes.
In what month were you finally stopped?
July.
Now, how do you know Miss Johnson?
Best friends for like 3 or 4 years.
How did you meet her?
I met her at the movies one night. Led to a very great relationship with her and I. Best friends for 4 years. I would say more than just a best relationship, as in we were like brothers, sisters.
Good. So that when you were arrested in July because you were a deadbeat with regard to these assorted violations involving your car, how many phone calls were you allowed?
I can make the phone calls out from a jail as many as I want.
How many did you make?
I made 1.
Who did you make it to?
My best friend Kim.
Did you ask her how she was feeling?
No.
Did you say, did you have a good day?
No.
Did you say, I'm in jail?
Yes.
Did you say, can you bail me out?
No.
Did she say, how can I help you?
Yes.
Now, when you called her, Mr. Birch, from jail, I want you to try to think and get into yourself, sir. What did you hope would happen?
That she'd be there for me like best friends are supposed to do.
But I don't need any editorializing. You called her because you wanted her to bail you out.
Yes.
Now, these weren't her parking tickets, were they?
No.
She wasn't driving with a suspended license, was she?
No.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Birch?
I work at a retail store, fashion design, clothing.
And before that, what were you doing?
I worked for Singular Wireless.
What did Miss Johnson do for a living?
Miss Johnson currently in school. She also worked at a swimming facility. She was a swim teacher.
So she was supporting herself while she was going to school and paying for school.
Yes.
What I want to know is, why would you think that somebody should spend $500 to get you out of a predicament that you got yourself into when she is supporting herself, trying to better herself by going to school, and you're doing nothing but taking care of yourself?
Well, it's not about whether she would do it. In this case, your best friends, regardless if it's she or a male, you're supposed to be there for your best friend regardless of the situation it is. In this case, and since she's a girl, I'm assuming that she is innocent. No, I didn't make her pay this money. I didn't put a gun to her head. She chose to. This is my best friend.
I want you to look at his face. Do you know how disgusted he is with you? I think it's very nice that she took out the money from her ATM, from her bank account, or wrote out money, a check from her checking account, or borrowed money from her line of credit to go down to make sure that you didn't spend more than 5 hours in jail. And the next thing that should have happened was that you go to your ATM, to your line of credit, to your checking account, take out the money and say, thanks for being there for me as my friend, and here's the money back. Don't you get that? Don't you get that? $500?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500, that's all.
What is that excuse you stepped out?
Shouldn't have gone any other way. Fair. Now it's over with. I'm very pleased with the decision.
Things happen in life, some things you can't control, but in this case I could have controlled.
I was told the excuse that I had $200 coming to me, and he went to church and got so moved by the Lord that he had to give it to church instead of giving it to me.
My religion is very important to me. My tie testimony to God is very important also. In that case, that's where the money went to.
I acknowledge the fact that we were friends, and I was there when nobody else was there for him.
Made a bad decision, lost a best friend, and that's that.
This was somebody that I was friends with, and now it's nothing over money.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McCullough versus Nelson's Nautilus. Step forward, please.
Student Renee McCullough is suing the owners of her gym, Preston Nelson and John Ashey, for breaking into her locker and selling her belongings. The men say Renee's locker dues were 6 months delinquent.
Ms. McCullough, you belonged to the defendant's gym, according to your complaint, for about 9 years.
That's correct.
And then there came a time recently that you stopped going, about a year ago. And it is your claim that they clipped the lock off your locker after several months and got rid of your stuff. You want them to pay you $600 for what you claim was in the locker. When did you first rent your locker?
The first time I rented it was for a year. It was in November of 2001.
And how much was the rental on the locker for that year?
I paid $100. He gave me a break. I paid a year in advance.
Is that right?
That sounds correct.
Okay, $100 for the year. That was in 2001.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay in 2002?
Is
not an answer.
No.
Why not?
Because it was my understanding when I paid for my year in advance that it would be included in my automatic payment out of my bank, and in the event that it wasn't, that Preston would let me know.
Did you have that conversation with her?
I couldn't. I would say yes, I did. We could not find any paperwork to show that, and so I don't know where it all fell short, but I have no paperwork that would show that. Typically, it was a prepaid year only.
Okay. When did you stop going to the gym at all?
At approximately middle of 2002.
And when did you go back?
The end of July of 2003.
And when you went back in July of 2003, you found your locker opened?
Exactly.
Okay, well, that's well over a year ago. What have you done the last year?
After I found out my lock had been cut off, I spoke to Mr. Ashby, and he said he had to speak to his wife to find out where my belongings were. He thought that they still had them on the premises. At that time, I found out that no, they were no longer there. I left a note with Mr. Ashby concerning, I had quite a bit of belongings in that locker, and that if they would pay me for my swimsuit and my shoes, I would go away.
Do you work? I assume you do.
I did previous to this, yes.
What are you doing now?
I'm going back to school.
How do you support yourself?
Through my husband.
Oh, okay. So your family supports itself?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're going back to school. What I want to know is, I assume that you have a busy life. I want to know why you're suing him over swimsuit and shoes.
I expect that if they run a business, that they need to comply with the laws that regulate the renting of areas.
Well, but the truth of the matter is, Ms. McCullough, from what you tell me, you didn't go back to the gym for almost a year. And during that period of time, the locker was really not paid for. You assumed that it was going to be paid for. You assumed that they would notify you in the event that it wasn't paid for. Have you lived in the same place
Yes.
all the time? Well, what I don't understand, Mr. Nelson, quite frankly, is why couldn't you just send her a note? Drop her a note and say, listen, we're going to empty out your locker because it hasn't been paid for, and it has to be paid for. You know, you better come and get it within the next 2 weeks.
Right. That really, a lot of the specifics, when Johnny came on board, the records were not well kept. We didn't have an automatic payment system in place for lockers. That was something that was discussed, but primarily it's a membership, tanning, health club.
Okay. So what Ms. McCullough was asking for initially was $160. Is that right?
That's what I have, yes.
Right. That's what she said here. Originally, I told me you've just paid me $160 for my swimsuit and sneakers. That would be fine. And she's here just for the principle of it. Right?
Correct.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $160. That's all. Thank you.
Please, you may step out.
It was fair. It was more making them accountable for what they should have stood up to the plate with before.
At the time that we cleaned the lockers out, we didn't find anything of real value in any of the lockers that we cleaned out. Certainly nothing that would have merited $160 in value.
I think if you own a business and you run a business, that you should comply with the laws.
Judy makes good decisions. She's a competent woman, and it's probably the right decision.
Wanda Brown is suing her ex-boyfriend, paint repair worker Dean Harrington, for an unpaid loan to pay off debt. Dean is countersuing for the return of stolen property and for having him falsely arrested for sexual assault.
Yeah, this is case number 324 on the calendar in the matter of Brown versus Harrington. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Brown, Mr. Harrington and you had a relationship for quite some time. According to your complaint, you lived together. And while you were living together, you made him a loan in the amount of $6,000. In addition, there was, according to you, a violent episode in the home that you shared together where he assaulted you both physically and sexually, and he was arrested.
Yep.
Mr. Harrington said that the $6,000 was not a loan, but that you had lived with him for a period of time, never paid any expenses when you lived there, and this really was repayment for living expenses. And in addition, he says that while he was in jail for that one day, and you were only there one day, sir?
Just for the night. Released me in the morning.
In jail for one day. He says that the charges that you filed against him were false, and he wants money for emotional distress. How long did you two live together?
A little bit over 2 years.
From when to when?
March until...
March of what year?
2002, until the beginning of May of this year.
And did you live in his home?
Yes.
Did you pay expenses in the house?
Yes, I did.
What kind of expenses did you pay?
At first, he had a loan out for the garage, so I took over the loan for the garage while he paid for the house payment and the other bills, and I took care of the food. I'd buy all the groceries.
Now, tell me about this $6,000.
Well, he had one of the other loans that he had out was for $6,000, and he was paying $100 a month on that loan. And I told him, I says, if you look at this, only half of it goes to the loan, the other half goes to the interest. I says, what we can do is borrow some money out of my savings account, get rid of this so we don't have to pay that interest anymore. In exchange, we just put that $100 back into my savings account instead. And
Where did you get $6,000 from?
Oh, my dad had died and I had gotten some inheritance money.
Okay. So what did he say?
He thought that was a good idea. That way we would be saving money.
Did you use a joint account?
Yeah, both of our checks started going into the same checking account.
All right, so let's hear about this $6,000. She says you didn't give her back the $6,000.
Okay, this lady here, met her at the bar, and...
Listen to me.
Met her at the bar.
Listen to me. I'm not interested in when you met her. I'm not interested when you started to date her. I'm not interested in anything but the $6,000. You want to talk about your relationship, you go to a psychiatrist. This is about $6,000.
Your Honor.
When?
Can I say something?
Who are you?
I'm his daughter.
Oh, he's a grown man.
Okay.
You take medication?
No.
Is there any reason why you
No.
can't tell me the story?
He's nervous.
I haven't done anything yet.
I met.
Well, Your Honor.
Shh. Don't speak. Mr. Harrington, I'm not interested in the beginning of your relationship. I'm interested in the $6,000 that she says you owe her. Could you get to it?
The $6,000 was from when she moved in, and she agreed to pay the partial house payment with the utilities, and she said that she couldn't afford it, so she said she'd pay the loan off with her dad's inheritance that she received from him. That was no loan. I've got 9 months of bank statements here that she never put nothing in it.
She never put anything in your joint account.
It was no joint account, and she moved in. It wasn't a joint account until November 9th, 2002.
Okay.
I have proof right here.
After November of 2002, did she start to put money in your joint account?
Yes.
How much?
I guess it was $742 or something every 2 weeks.
And you used that money for expenses?
Yes,
the answer is yes. You used it for expenses. Your expenses, her expenses.
Yes.
You lived together. This was a family, the
Right.
two of you. Now, what was the $6,000 debt that you had? What was it for? Was it from credit cards, which is from a car, which is from a loan that you took out?
I suppose it was odds and ends for, I've got horses, it might have been $1,000 for them, no, it's just, the $6,000 wasn't applied to one
thing.
Right.
All right, so this was clearly your $6,000 loan that she paid off with her $6,000, right?
You're correct.
Okay. Now, when you separated in May, according to you, there was an incident at the house.
Yes.
You want to tell me what happened? Because that goes to Mr. Harrington's counterclaim.
Yeah. Well, in the middle of the night, I woke up with him putting handcuffs on me over the top of me, and I went to pull away from him, and I seen a gun sitting there on the nightstand, so I just stopped fighting just like that. I was scared to death.
You understand that the jurisdiction of this court is $5,000. You
Right.
understand that. So the money that you say was a loan, the $6,000, far exceeds the jurisdiction of the court. So I find that the $6,000 initially that Mr. Harrington had spent was money that he had spent on himself, his horses, odds and ends, etc. They were not debts of a joint couple who were living together. So I'm entering a judgment in your favor in the amount of $5,000. Now I'm going to get, sir, to your counterclaim. I've read the police report. The police report, I don't know whether your daughter has read. Have you?
No, I haven't.
All right. The police report contains your fully Mirandized statement about what transpired the evening that Ms. Brown has described to me, and I haven't asked her to go into detail. It's really not necessary. And there is no question in my mind, sir, that based upon your confession to the police, Ms. Brown had sexual relations with you because she felt intimidated. Now, you may have thought that that was a way to spice up your sex life, sir, but clearly she did not. You acknowledged you used handcuffs. You acknowledged you took a gun out and placed it on the night table. You acknowledged all of that, and you seem to think that that was okay. Now, I don't know why the district attorney chose not to pursue this matter. I haven't a clue. They found the handcuffs where she said that they were in your home. You acknowledged that you took them out without her consent. You did say that when she told you to take them off, you took them off. But that doesn't say that she wasn't, in fact, intimidated and frightened by your actions, because according to you and according to her, you had never done that before. I would be frightened, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you?
No comment.
You wouldn't be frightened if a man that you lived with for the first time took out handcuffs while you were half asleep? Put handcuffs on you, proceeded to have sex with you, and you turned over to the night table and there was a gun there? That wouldn't frighten you?
I have no comment.
You have no comment. Good, then say nothing. In any event, your counterclaim, sir, is dismissed, because the crux of your counterclaim is that you suffered emotional distress from being in jail for that one night. If it were up to me, you would have been jailed for a lot longer than one night. Your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Buddies are excused. You may step out.
You better watch yourself.
Not very smart.
Women, what can I say? They have you arrested, clean your house out, and still want more.
I knew my side of the story was true, and it would come out this way, so I'm very glad it's over and done with.
It just says, love Wanda,
from one with handcuffs
love.
on it.
The message behind that was meaning that we were joined together.
Hey, this is just one of
This
them,
is
but I got
not-
one every year.
Nothing to do with sex or nothing. It meant that I was committed and we were together.
What they did that night is not something that is rare.
He even asked me about it when I gave it to him, and I straightened him out right away that it just meant that we were committed to each other.
For her to sit there and say that they've never done it before is
We've
is
had them out.
hypocrisy.
We played around with them before.
Oh, I'm glad it's over with.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Blessum versus Blessum. Step forward.
22-year-old salesperson Kaylee Blessum is suing her brother, 19-year-old warehouse worker Adam Blessum, for crashing her car. Adam says Kaylee's insurance should pay.
What's your first name?
Kaylee?
Kaylee. That's your brother. You each have a car.
Yes.
What kind of car do you have?
A 2000 Mitsubishi Galant.
And what kind of car does Adam have?
He had a 2002 Mitsubishi Galant.
What happened to his car?
He got into an accident a couple months ago.
Totaled his car?
Mm-hmm.
When did he borrow your car?
He borrowed it around May 10th of '03.
And at that time he had a car.
Yes.
But he liked your car better because your car had nicer...
rims and just flashier of a car.
I know you love these cases. I know you love these. You borrowed her car to go over to a friend's house.
Yep.
And what happened, Adam?
On the way to bring a car back, I slid on some kind of ice. So I slid off to the left side of the road and hit a tree.
And what did you do to your sister's car?
I broke the headlight, the bumper, and crushed the fender a little.
A lot of damage.
So you caused some damage to her car.
Yeah.
And you want him to pay for the damage.
Yes.
Adam says, why didn't you put this through the insurance that you had on the car?
I called the insurance company, and they actually told me that if I did, because
he was 19 years old, your insurance rates would go up, and they would go up for a very long time.
Right.
So you want her to put this through her insurance, and you'd be, according to you, more than happy to pay for her deductible. Is that right?
Right.
That's your defense.
Yeah.
Are you more than happy, Adam, to pay for her increased insurance rates for the next 5 years?
No.
Why not?
Or she could have, she could have done that to my car too.
Listen, she could have stood on her head and had twins in the parking lot of Target. She could have done that too, but she didn't. You caused an accident damaging her car, right?
Right.
If she were to put the accident through her insurance, it would cost her additional premiums at least for the next 5 years through no fault of her own. So, would you be prepared to pay for her $500 deductible as well as her increased insurance premiums over the next 5 years?
No.
Why not?
We didn't have an agreement on if that would happen. Accidents happen.
Yes, accidents happen. And the person who is closest in responsibility for that accident bears the responsibility for that accident.
Mm-hmm.
That's what an accident is, my friend. That's why they don't call it an on purpose. Had you been more careful with her car would not have been in an accident. If there was ice and rain on the street that night, you should have taken your own car. And if you chose to take her car, you assumed the responsibility for any damage that was done to the car, not her. How much did it cost to fix your car?
Total was $1,587.47.
Can I see the bill, please?
I have actually 2 estimates that I got.
Did you fix it yet?
Yes.
Good. Well, how much did it cost you to fix it?
The $1,587.47.
Okay. The other one was more.
Right.
Good. What kind of work do you do, Adam?
It's an assembly line.
You work regularly?
Yep.
You live at home?
I live with my girlfriend at her parents' house.
At her parents' house?
Yeah.
You mean her parents think that you're prize enough to let you move into their house with their daughter? How old is their daughter?
19.
19. Uh-huh. All right. Kaylee!
Yes.
He has to fix your car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,587.
Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm just happy that I won my case.
You should have to only pay the deductible.
He's been in so much trouble with the law.
Accidents happen, and that's what insurance is for.
He was probably intoxicated at the time.
She can think whatever she wants.
He's suing his brother, Randall Rubin, for unpaid expenses from their mother's funeral.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Good morning, Judge. Case number 2011, Rubin versus Rubin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rubin, this is your brother.
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And this case involves sharing expenses for your mother's funeral.
Correct.
And it is your claim that your brother, who I believe was living with your mother at the time she died,
right,
agreed to pay half of the funeral expenses when he received proceeds from a small life insurance policy that your mother had left.
Yes, Judge. Our mother only left us a $5,000 life insurance policy.
That's what the case is about.
Right.
Your brother's position is it's not his responsibility. He made no such promise. Of course, you do understand that without that promise to pay for your mother's funeral expenses, children aren't normally responsible for the expenses of their parent. You understand that?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Rubin, when did your mother pass away?
She passed away August 20th of 2021.
How old was she?
She was 86.
And how long had you been living with your mother?
Your Honor, I took care of my mother since 1991.
Well, if you were taking care of her for almost 30 years, sir, what kind of physical malady did she have when she was in her 50s?
She suffered from chronic kidney failure.
When did that medical condition develop?
Pretty close to 91.
What is pretty close to 91?
Beginning in the 90s, 91, 92, etc.
So when you moved in with her, was your mother sick or was she not sick?
She was sick.
Did you live with your mother because it was not only good for your mother, but because it was good for you? That's
Correct.
what I'm trying to get
Yes.
to. The answer is yes.
Yes,
and you moved into your mother's house?
Correct.
That she owned or rented?
She was purchasing it through a mortgage.
She owned her home?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Was she working in the 90s?
She was.
Therefore, she wasn't incapacitated to the extent that she needed full-time care.
At the beginning, no, ma'am.
When you moved in with her, she was employed on a full-time basis,
Correct.
Sufficient enough to get a mortgage from a bank based upon her income.
Correct.
And what were you doing in 1991?
I worked.
For whom?
So jobs in between, I sold cars for various car dealerships, and I also owned several businesses.
When you lived with your mother, who paid the mortgage?
My mother did.
Did you pay your mother for any expenses? Rent, gas, electric, phone, anything? Or did you live there and you had an agreement? You lived there, she wanted your company, whatever it was. She lived alone?
At the time, yes.
In 1991, she was just living alone?
Correct.
And I assume, therefore, happy to have your company?
Correct.
I assume. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you made no payments to your mother?
With the occasional help with some utilities or food, yes.
Okay. So you were able, I assume, to save a substantial amount of money?
Correct.
Just for my own information, so that I can sort of put this thing together.
Sure.
You have stocks, bonds, savings?
No, ma'am.
What do you have? You were able to save a lot of money. How did you invest it?
I invested in several businesses, which one is my liquidation company.
What happened with your mother's house?
When she passed, I was still residing at the house. I paid the mortgage by myself for the months of September 2021 as well as October 2021. And I remained there until, I want to say, February 2022. My sister is the executor of the estate, and she sold it just recently for $465,000.
Okay. So what I'm gathering from you, you paid the mortgage, you say, in September and October, then you stopped paying the mortgage November, December, January, and February.
That is correct, ma'am.
But you lived in the house?
I did.
Rent-free, because you paid nothing?
Correct.
Where are you living now?
I live in Nogales, Mexico.
And you live in a house? You live in
an apartment, ma'am.
You pay rent?
I do.
Anybody live with you?
No, ma'am.
What's your rent?
$250.
Okay. And what was the mortgage payment in your mother's house?
I paid $1,750 even.
Are you the sister?
Yes, Your Honor.
Could you stand up for a second? I'm just getting some information.
$158,000 plus a $35,000 third mortgage.
Your Honor, since her brother was not paying, since he wasn't paying, the house actually went into foreclosure, and so we had to get...
I didn't ask you anything.
Okay. I'm just...
Sarah Rose, 465 less 258.
207,000, Your Honor.
Less 35.
172.
Okay, and there are 3 siblings?
And also, Your Honor, there was a $10,000 lien on the property that had to be paid.
So we're down to 162.
Correct.
So it's 162 clear, so a little over $50,000 a person.
She owed the IRS, Your Honor, for back payments in excess of $54,000. She hadn't paid taxes in years.
Did you pay the IRS?
I just did.
And how much did you pay the IRS?
$54,188.
Sarah, from 162, take out $54,000.
$108,000.
Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor. She had Arizona state taxes, $3,000 I paid as well.
105. Is that 105 net?
So we also have the medical bills that I had to take care of.
She had no insurance, and she had to have Medicare.
She did, Your Honor. That's her copayment.
Okay, and what was her copayment?
$3,000 in medical.
Let's do a simple $100,000. How much were the funeral expenses?
$2,434.73.
Was the total funeral expense?
Yes.
Well, that's what you're claiming he owes you.
That's his share of the...
I want to know what the entire funeral costs, sir. You'll show me the invoice.
Sure. I do have all the invoices for you. The first one, Your Honor, is just for the cremation
1058.
services. Correct.
Okay. 1058.
The next one should be from the cemetery.
This is the total funeral home charges, and this is cremated remains internment of $2,200?
Correct. The next invoice you should have, Your Honor, is from services provided by a rabbi.
Okay, that was $600. If you want to pay him as an honorarium, that's fine. So the total expenses are $3,858.
You should have another invoice for a proposal for a headstone as well.
1717.
Yes, Your Honor.
3858 plus $1,717.
$5,575.
That's it. Okay. I assume your mother died without a will.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And you are the only surviving siblings?
Yes, Your Honor.
The estate will be divided into 3 parts.
Correct.
So each one of you will get about $33,000 from the estate after all of the expenses have been paid.
There's also the real estate commission fees that we didn't mention to subtract from the net income.
And what were the real estate commission fees?
$30,000.
Oh, yeah, that's a substantial amount.
Yes, Your Honor.
So 108 less 30, $78,000. So now you're down to $25,000 each.
That's correct, Your Honor.
What I'm trying to figure out is, even giving you all those expenses that you paid, your mother's estate, absent this $5,000 life insurance policy that there was, correct? And you got a share of that life insurance policy. How much? Yes, the answer is yes. How much did you receive?
$2,500 even.
Okay, $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you get a share of that life insurance policy?
No, Your Honor.
Did you?
Yes, Your Honor. I also received $2,500.
Great. And the estate had net, after everything, at least $75,000 divided by 3, which is $25,000 apiece after you pay all expenses, which in this case would have been funeral expenses. Do you understand where I'm coming from, sir?
I do.
I have children and grandchildren. 10 years is a long time. That's a grandchild. She didn't see me at least once a month. She better keep her fingers crossed that I don't change my will.
Randall is countersuing, claiming Sean defamed him.
So now, if what you're asking me, Mr. Rubin, is to find that you had an agreement with your brother to pay 1/3 of the funeral expenses because the two of you each paid 1/3 of the funeral expenses, is that what you did?
Well, Your Honor,
that's either a yes or a no.
It is a no. I'm the only one that had the money to process our mother. He would not even sign to get her processed to continue the cremation. I have evidence here I'd like to submit to you where he agreed to pay me half of it out of his life insurance.
Okay, that's all.
I have text from him.
Just a second. I'm going to take a look at it. You have to understand, Mr. Rubin,
Yes.
that at this point, if I find that he agreed to pay for half, then you understand that you agreed to pay for half of her funeral. Ordinarily, the funeral expenses, you may front the money for those funeral expenses, but if the deceased had sufficient money in their estate to cover their last expenses, and those would be medical expenses, which you paid out of the estate, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Taxes, which you paid out of the estate.
Yes, Your Honor.
You paid out of the estate after you sold the house, broker's fees. State tax fees, along with those kinds of fees, would be funeral expenses. Now, if the two of you agreed, or the two brothers agreed, which is what you're saying, that he agreed to pay half, not a third, but he agreed to pay half of the funeral expenses for which you are not being reimbursed by the estate. Do you understand?
Correct. I have not received anything from the estate, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, this would be you. I'll let you know tomorrow. I think it's $2,200 for Menorah Gardens, and cremation was $1,053, so it's $1,626 each. That would be you, right?
Yes.
Okay, 1,626, because you asked him how much you owed, right?
I did.
So I assume since you asked him how much you owed, you had some sort of an arrangement with him to pay a third, because it does say a third, of the funeral expenses.
That is correct.
Okay, great.
Life insurance, we had communicated with one another that I had some emergency dental work that needed to be done. It was life-threatening, and therefore he said, I don't have the email because I had to block him. I have a restraining order against him. So I lost all my emails between us.
Listen,
however,
nobody ever has their emails here or a video.
A very substantial amount of those monies went for my dental.
I don't care. How old are you?
59, ma'am.
You have lived rent-free for 30 years. And according to you, you had businesses. You worked most of that time, either selling cars or on and off for a company for 30 years. You made an agreement with your brother to pay 1/3 of your mother's funeral expenses. And as far as I'm concerned, if you had dental problems, pay for it from the resources of one of your businesses, because you had no expenses. You have very little sympathy for you. You lived in the house for months without paying the mortgage. That's outrageous. That's taking money away from them. Do you understand that?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
say you lived in the house for 3 months rent-free, at least 3 months rent-free. So if you paid mortgage payments for 2 months, I would say to you, sounds pretty reasonable to me. You know, there's a story that's created.
Correct.
And what's created here is there's unequivocal information in these text messages that you and your brother and sister, because you, sir, are claiming that he owes half. He doesn't owe half. That was never the agreement, according to what you gave me. According to what you gave me, and in your own hand, you say this is what you owe me, $1,600, not $2,600.
Well, Your Honor, if I can explain, the reason why I said half is only me and my brother were included in life insurance policy. My sister was not named on it, and it was only for $5,000. So,
sir, listen carefully to me.
I mean, if we put our money together, we could have paid for it.
Listen carefully to me. That has nothing to do with you.
Exactly. The same with his dental has
proceeds of
nothing
your
to do with
mother's
me.
final resting should have come out of the estate. That way it would have. So if you understand that, the math is simple. If he pays a third, you get your sister to kick in whatever she's getting back from the $25,000, and everybody is equal.
Well, Your Honor, I mean, you're already getting the vibe that this guy is the biggest bum who lived off his mother, sponged off of his mother.
Let me explain something to you. That is unnecessary here. Unnecessary and really quite stupid. Stupid. You handed me evidence, sir, that you made an agreement with him. He asked you what he owed. You told him.
Yes.
$1,600. That's what you told him, that he owes you, $1,600.
That's correct.
And each of you are getting a certain amount of money for nothing from your mother. I'm going to ask you some questions. Prior to her death, when was the last time you saw her? When was the last time you saw your mother? Month and year?
I honestly do not recall, Your Honor.
Okay, just a second. Was it in the decade that she died?
Yes.
Okay, well, she died in 2021.
So when did you see her?
Probably several years before that, Your Honor.
Well, so you didn't see her in the decade before?
Your Honor, you have to understand, her house was infested with bed bugs.
Pay careful attention to me. I asked you some questions.
Yes.
My question was, when was the last time you saw your mother? So you hadn't seen your mother in a decade. When was the last time you saw your mother?
I saw my mother frequently, Your Honor. It was in May, Mother's Day.
Okay, Mother's Day of
2021.
And Your Honor,
I'm not speaking to you. March of 2021. Prior to that, when did you see your mother?
November 2021.
Wait a minute. How could you see her in November 2021 if she passed in August of 2021?
November 2020.
Okay, May 2021, November of 2020. Prior to that, when did you see your mother?
I saw her frequently because...
No, not frequently. Month and year.
I don't have the...
Did you see her every month?
No, Your Honor.
Did you see her every 2 months?
About that, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, between May and November, that's more than 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you can remember.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it would be fair to say that whether he took great care of her and whether the house was clean or dirty or anything else, your 86-year-old mother lived with your brother, whether you like him or not, and you were totally disinterested in her. You're the one who started this, or I was about ready to finish this case, but when you say you started it.
Sean Rubin is accusing his brother, Randall Rubin, of not paying his share of funeral expenses. Randall claims Sean spread multiple lies about him.
So it would be fair to say that whether he took great care of her and whether the house was clean or dirty or anything else, your 86-year-old mother lived with your brother, whether you like him or not, and you were totally disinterested in her.
Well, that's not true, Your Honor.
Well, I want to know if you didn't see your mother in a decade, and she had failing health, I would say, as a child, you were totally disinterested in her.
I did visit my mother after she had kidney replacement or kidney surgery. I visited her after her surgery. We both did.
Just a second. Do you understand where I'm coming from, sir?
I do.
I have children and grandchildren, right?
Sure.
10 years is a long time. That's a grandchild. If she didn't see me at least once a month, she better keep her fingers crossed that I don't change my will.
Well, Your Honor, I'm sure that Sarah is very close to you, where we live out of state.
Just a second.
We both have actual real jobs.
Just a second. If her father didn't visit me at least once a month, and we live in different states, he too would check the will. So what I'm telling you is, if you don't see your mother for 10 years, you are a disinterested child. You're the one who started this, or I was about ready to finish this case, but when you say he's a bum, I say, you know what? This guy's got to be put in his place. He may have been, but he was the bum who took care of your mother.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, really? Did your mother have full-time nursing care for the last 10 years? The answer is either yes or no.
It's an absolute no.
She declined.
That's not what I asked you. Not what she declined care. And she was in poor health because, based upon your blurted out answer to me, you thought she should have full-time care.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. But she didn't. So he took care of her. You don't like the way he took care of her. That's your prerogative, but you let him take care of her. And you went about your business in your own states where you live, and he took care of her. And you didn't like him, and he may have been a sponge and a bum. You started it. But you were not interested enough in your mother to move next door to her, or to have her move next door to you when she got sick.
Your Honor.
Somebody else
I actually did ask her to move in with me, and she declined.
Right. She didn't want to live with you. There had to be a reason for that if she was being abused.
Your Honor, there is.
Do I look like I need help from you?
No, of course not.
Then I want you to be quiet.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe him $1,600. That's it, not $26. What he's asking you. Put it down.
I have a counterclaim.
$1,600, and I'll hear your counterclaim.
Thank you.
Which sounds a little ridiculous to me. I'm finished with you. $1,600. That's what you owe, except for the counterclaim, which I'll hear. Well, the counterclaim is that they posted something on the internet that says that there were bugs in the shoes you were selling. If that's just a second, quiet. Your counterclaim says that he defamed you and your business because he wrote on the internet that there were bugs in the shoes you were selling. I couldn't make that up. Let me see. Maybe I did
You're
make it
correct.
up.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what
he
he
posted
wrote.
that there were bugs in the shoes I was selling.
He also put that I impregnate Hispanic women.
Oh, just a second. First of all, that's not in here.
It's right here, ma'am.
It's not in my answer. So I want to see where he wrote, and who knows what you're doing in Mexico. I have no idea what you're doing in Mexico. Show me what he wrote about the bugs in the shoes that you're selling, giving me a whole lot of nonsense there that I'm not going to read.
It's not.
You
these
give
are,
me...
These are the posts that he put online.
I only want to...
These are also letters from my mother in her own...
I'm not reading the letters from your mother.
Okay.
I'm reading a post or more where he says there are bugs in the shoes you are selling.
Yes.
Period.
Do you want to hear the audio that he sent to one of my employers?
No. I want to see where he wrote there are bugs in the shoes.
You have a restraining order on him as well.
I'm not interested in your restraining order. Okay, so this has nothing to do with anything. I'm going to give this back to you, and if you don't hand me exactly what I asked for, I'm dismissing. I'm not reading all that drivel. I asked you for one post.
Your Honor, if you'd like to...
I don't want to hear you.
This is what I wrote.
I
if you want to see
don't
it.
want... This is not your case to prove, sir.
Okay. I'm just trying to be honest.
Here you go, Your Honor. This is one that he
Thank you.
wrote
Don't
to
tell
my
me
employer.
one. Just give me the posts about shoes. This has nothing to do with shoes.
This one is in Spanish.
If you show me one more thing that doesn't say bugs and shoes, I'm just dismissing your case. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Please look at this one. It is in Spanish.
No, that's your problem. The counterclaim's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
I'm very pleased with the judge's decision. I think she made the right decision.
I wasn't really thrilled.
I'm just kind of glad it's over. I never want to see my brother again.
We're a very estranged bunch of people. We do not like each other.
She didn't raise him right. She raised us right, and we're going to do the right thing on behalf of our mom.
First and foremost, I will visit you every month, every week, every day, if that's what it takes. But in all seriousness, this case shows how foolish it is not to memorialize your wishes for the end, because it creates a heightened sense of stress at a time when emotions are already running high. And first rule of wills, trusts, and estates class is always have a will. So it doesn't matter how much you have, how little you have. It's important, your wishes, and to prevent situations like this, your loved ones having to go through.
Yeah, and be angry with each other. I mean, they don't love each other anyway, but to be angry with each other, if you can avoid that. Even young people, Sarah, who have put anything together. Yeah. You have a will?
I do.
There you go.
I wouldn't want my loved ones going through that. So, yeah, you have to take the time and write it down. And yeah, that's really all you can do to avoid the situation.
You're right.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to judyjustice.tv. Boyfriend, Derek Jones, for personal property.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2063, Martin versus Hancock Jones.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Martin, how old are you, sir?
I'm 46.
Who is this with you?
This is my girlfriend, Kimberly.
Case is not unusual, but sad. Mr. Martin, you had a long history of drug addiction.
I did.
From when to when?
From 2002 until December 1st, 2020. I've been clean for 2 years on the 1st of December.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Did you manage to get clean by going into a residential facility?
I did, yes.
How long were you in a residential facility?
I was in 23 days in an inpatient facility, and I was just over a month in an outpatient facility.
Are you currently working?
I am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a production manager for a soap and bath bomb company.
How long have you been working for them?
A year yesterday.
Are you in touch with your folks?
I am.
Back in their good graces?
Yes, ma'am.
There was a time when that wasn't true.
Correct.
This is what I gather this case is about. Miss Hancock was your girlfriend?
Yes.
For how long?
We dated from November 2019 until April 2020. We separated for a few months and got back together in July 2020 and separated again in September 2020, so 7 months.
And it would be a fair statement, sir, that the reasons that you separated on both instances is because you relapsed into using drugs.
Yes.
And it would also be a fair statement that the first time you left the house at the defendant's request, you were unsuccessful permanently from ridding yourself of addiction, but you thought you were okay and you asked her to take you back.
Yes.
And she did.
Yes.
And you would have to acknowledge to me that made her, A, a forgiving person,
Very.
and someone who cared about you.
Yes.
I say all that to you because it's not my job today to exacerbate what appears to be a strained situation, which I assume from your papers has resulted in a final protective order in favor of Miss Hancock, keeping you away from her for how many years?
Permanently.
That was resolved, and it was resolved in her favor probably, and I don't know this for certain, probably with a plea from you.
Yes.
And when you enter a plea, the judge always asks you, you understand your right to have a trial, you have a right to examine witnesses, you have a right to call witnesses, and by making this admission, it is the same thing as a guilty verdict.
Correct.
Judge did tell you that.
Yes.
I assume. I mean, I remember making those statements many, many times a long, long time ago. I'm surprised I still remember any of it. And you're supposed to remain away from her.
Yes.
So the first question I have, well, I know why you're here. You're here because you say the last time she threw you out, and she threw you out not only because she found drugs that you were using again, but she had a fear that you were selling drugs out of the house, and she couldn't be involved with that, which is perfectly legitimate. You would have to acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
You'd also acknowledge, and I'm reading these papers sort of between the lines, your complaint, her answer, and the countersuit, that Miss Hancock had a child.
Yes.
A son.
Yes.
How old? When you were
15
living?
at the time.
And uber impressionable age, and the fact that you were abusing drugs in the house, it really exposed him to something that a teenager shouldn't be exposed to, because his mother has feelings for that person who's drug addicted.
Yes.
And I assume you had warm feelings at some point for this 15-year-old.
Absolutely.
At the time, your parents had asked you to leave the house.
I was living with my parents at the time. Jennifer asked me to move into the house because Mr. Jones had placed a GPS tracker on her car, and she was concerned about her safety with him.
So you were dating at the time?
Yes, I was living with my parents before I moved in, yes.
Okay. Was that a happy situation?
At the time it was, yes. It didn't get difficult to last.
Moved away from that. And when you moved in with Miss Hancock, according to you, you were not paying rent.
Correct.
You were, in fact, working.
I was.
And according to, that's what you say in your papers.
Yes, I bought things for the house. Yes.
Those were exactly the words that you swore to. You said, I also spent over $10,000 on things for her place.
Correct.
In lieu of paying to live there.
Correct.
What things did you buy?
I bought a dryer.
Dryer?
I put $1,200 into her son's Ford, fixing it. I bought...
Okay, so you paid for some things for her son. What else did you buy for the house?
We went to Costco several times and spent $1,000.
Okay, so you
towels.
went, just a second. Yeah. I'm not interested in Costco several times. Yeah. You know, you do use toilet paper, don't you?
Absolutely.
What else did you buy for the household?
I bought a battery for a Ford car. I bought a Keurig. I bought a rug, towels. I paid for the vacations while we were together. I bought some home lights for the outside.
Come on, keep going. What else did you buy?
And
what else did you buy for the house? So far, we're not close to $10,000.
That's all.
Well, you swore to the fact that you spent $10,000, that you bought things for the house in lieu of rent. So far, you've given me maybe $2,500.
Okay.
And that includes a couple of trips to Costco. So I want to know, what else did you buy for the house? Did you buy televisions for the house?
I bought televisions.
Just a second. How many televisions did you buy?
I bought two.
And how much were they?
One was $1,700, the other one was $500.
What else did you buy for the house?
Those are the only items I remember buying for the house.
Great. Now, what items do you claim that, because that's what this is about so far, what items do you claim that Miss Hancock kept that belonged to you when she told you to leave the second time?
I have text messages saying...
No, don't tell me text. I don't want to hear text messages. I want to hear what items you claim are your property that she kept when she told you to leave the second time. That requires things: a fishbowl, a guppy, a pair of shoes, a tie. And if you say any of those things, I'm going to throw you out of here because I don't waste my time over guppies.
Yeah.
So tell me what you are alleging that she kept.
2 TVs.
Okay.
An entertainment center.
Just a second. You didn't tell me an entertainment. You told me you bought entertainment center. What did you pay for the entertainment center?
Originally, I paid $1,200.
What else?
I'm also asking for the return of a rehab center that she was kicked me out of, $2,500.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Keep going.
Okay. And then 47 Nintendo 64 games.
47 what?
Nintendo 64 games.
So, Mr. Martin, because I'm going to make short shrift of this case, as you can see right now, and your girlfriend looks like a nice lady. I don't know why you're here. You seem to have problems with boyfriends. You got to start picking them better.
I do.
This one put a tracker on you. This one, you have a protective order permanently. You have to figure these things out before ultimately you get very hurt.
Brian Martin claims his ex-girlfriend, Jennifer Hancock, and her ex-boyfriend, Derek Jones, owe for personal property. Jennifer and Derek are countersuing for harassment.
Okay, so far, all the things that you told me that you bought for the house barely add up to the $10,000 that you swore that you purchased for things for the house in lieu of paying rent. Do you understand?
I do. If I may also add, when we were separated the first time, I sold my marital home for $47,000. I cashed it at my bank and I put it into an account with her that I was an authorized user on. I did not get that money back because she removed my name from the account. So that money also went to purchase things while we were together that were for the house. I don't remember specifically what we bought. It was close to $20,000 that wasn't returned.
But Mr. Martin, I can understand that. But you know, this is a court.
Okay.
This is not a guessing game. This is not a game show. If you're saying that because of whatever reason you put your money into an account that she had access to and you spent money together, I mean, it was a time that was a fog. Did Miss Hancock and or Mr. Jones ever return any property to you or to your parents' house?
They did on November 20th.
That was in 2021?
Yes.
What month in 2021 did they return things to your parents' house?
It was November 20th to the 21st during the night.
Were you present?
I was not. I did not live there.
So I would assume that you found out that that property was delivered to your parents' house from either Miss Hancock or your parents.
My parents.
And your parents aren't here today.
They are not.
Your girlfriend was not there when they were delivered.
I have signed affidavits from them.
From whom?
From my parents about the property.
Are your parents in any way disabled, or are either one of them in the military?
No, my father was in the military, no longer.
Well, that's the only reason you don't come in person to court if you're disabled, and I might accept an affidavit, or if you're unable to come to court by virtue of the fact that you're in the military. None of those things apply here, so I'm not taking any information that you have in an affidavit. Suffice it to say that they did, over a 2-day period, return a lot of property to your parents' house.
Yes.
And that, based upon my rough guesstimates, because you can't help me out anymore with that you swore in your complaint, Mr. Martin, that you spent in lieu of rent $10,000
yes.
in the home.
Yes.
And that was specifically because you weren't paying any of the household expenses. Yes. And all of the things that you added up to me, I don't know what 47 video games are, but I assumed that the 15-year-old played them more than you did. She says they were gifted to him. I don't know whether they were or they weren't. Certainly, if you want them back. Do you still have any of the video games?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you want the video games, sir, or do you want to leave them where they are?
I would like them.
You would like them?
Yes.
Okay. Miss Hancock, I'm going to make this as easy as possible. I would like you, not the boyfriend, I would like you to pack up those video games. And do you live in the same town, area, whatever?
Close enough.
Is there a police precinct where you can drop them off?
Yes.
Do you know what precinct number that is?
I don't know the number, but I'm happy to drop them off at Bountiful City Police Department.
Got it?
Yep.
Within 5 days from today, package up the videos that you have. She's going to give you back your video, your 47 video games. Okay?
Okay.
Take a breath. You have to say it's over. Tell me about your new girlfriend. Are you living together?
We are, yeah. She's great. I love her.
She's great?
She's amazing.
And you're fine?
Yeah.
And you're working?
Mm-hmm.
You have to put a period to this.
Yes.
A real period.
I know.
Okay? Ms. Hancock, You and are you currently together, or is this an ex-boyfriend?
Ex-boyfriend.
Ex-boyfriend. Well, you seem to have problems with boyfriends. Yeah, I got to start picking them better.
I do.
This one put a tracker on you. This one, you have a protective order permanently. You have to figure these things out before ultimately you get very hurt.
Absolutely.
Okay. I read not only your answer, and I've resolved Mr. Martin's claim. He is going to get all of his videos back. You know that Ms. Hancock and Mr. Jones have a cross-claim for harassment.
I do.
And that was not made part of the criminal case, any restitution.
No.
It was not. Did the district attorney request any restitution?
No.
Why not?
I was actually not involved. It was a criminal case, not a civil.
Well, you were the complainant in the criminal case.
The state of Utah is the one who filed it.
But you were the complainant. They may have filed it.
It actually says right here, state of Utah is the plaintiff.
Of course.
So,
I know that
I did contact the police and ask them to
So
do this.
you were the complainant.
Okay, yes.
You know, it's the state of New York versus John Jones. It's the state of Utah versus John Jones, but there has to be a complainant.
Yes.
Somebody who was robbed, somebody who was the victim of stalking, somebody who was the victim of an assault. That's the complainant. That's who you were.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Did you ever ask the district attorney for compensation for lost wages or anything else that you suffered as a result of this stalking?
No, I was not aware I could actually do that.
Okay, well, that's not something that I consider, but there is part of your counterclaim that is particularly troubling to me. And it is your claim on the counterclaim that Mr. Martin, at some point, photoshopped pornographic pictures of you.
Yes. And I'm not sure when, because Derek found it and didn't tell me about it for a while because he was upset and he didn't want to upset me about it.
When did you find it, Mr. Jones?
That would have been after this first bogus stalking injunction he filed and lost.
Bogus?
He filed a fraudulent stalking injunction. He filed
Stalking?
Against me.
So it was after that?
Mm-hmm.
And that was May of 2021? I'm trying to tell Mr. Martin, and I don't know how to make it any more clear to him, that his path going forward has to be putting a period, that in this whole scenario, you were the culprit.
I did not do what they're claiming right there. Absolutely, 100%. I did not.
You did not?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Let us assume, Mr. Jones, that you found on your car a pornographic picture that had been photoshopped with Miss Hancock's face and someone else's body. I'm assuming for a moment that that's true. Not that I have to look at it. I assume for the moment that's true. What proof do you have that Mr. Martin put that on your car?
Well, the problem is I don't have any proof of that, but he had put other signs up. I have a police report. He was hanging signs on my property. He got arrested for doing that and tased.
Okay.
I mean...
But I'm asking you specifically, that's what I'm particularly concerned about.
We couldn't prove it was him. We couldn't prove it was him.
Okay, fine. Do you have a new boyfriend?
No, I do not.
In what month was the protective order made final?
May of 2022.
Other than this experience, what happened?
Oh, there's a fly.
There's a fly. Oh, Mr. Jones, I'm expert at flies. Let's not come here. You have an attitude, and you're not a baby. I mean, it's not as if you're 21 years old anymore. And if you have that within you, to have bad behavior against another person, that's there. Either you have it or you don't.
Brian Martin has accused his ex-girlfriend, Jennifer Hancock, and her ex-boyfriend, Derek Jones, of keeping his personal property. Jennifer and Derek are countersuing, claiming Brian was harassing them.
Okay. Other than today's appearance, since that,
Yes.
Tell me when.
5/7/2021, we called the police.
No. Pay careful attention to my question, Mr. Jones. Between May of 2022 and today, have you had any contact with Mr. Martin?
Just his files, his claims. He keeps filing protective orders against me.
When was the last time he filed a protective order against you?
Well, he tried filing one a week before this, and I have that.
A week
as well.
before what?
Before this case.
Okay.
And I have that police report. They told him no.
Okay. So they didn't allow him to file it?
That one. But he's filed several others.
I'm talking about between May...
Nope, that's the last one.
That was the last one. I'd like to see it, please, Kevin. Mr. Jones, do you have a protective order in your favor?
I've tried.
Not tried.
No, I don't.
You do not. Okay.
Your Honor, I have a video of catching him stalking my house, hanging signs. We submitted that. We also have the police report that he was arrested that day and tased.
And tased?
Yep. I have that report right here as well.
I'd like to see it. Mr. Jones, I'm going to go back to just May of 2020. Since May of 2020, have you had any contact with him? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
When?
He's submitted letters to my family. He has emailed me.
I'd like to see the letters he submitted to your family.
These are some. He said, oh, there's more. These were cease and desist
Just
letters.
1 second. Just 1 second. What's this?
Mr. Jones texted me a text that says tweaker.
He took it to my rental.
What are you giving me?
These are letters he submitted to my houses or my rentals when he was trying to find me to
Just a second.
This was in relation. Mr. Jones had a temporary stalking injunction in place against him on February 7th, 2021. On May 5th, 2021, he was served that stalking injunction, and that is when the incident with the Bountiful Police took place that you're reading right now.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up to where I was getting my oil change. In addition to that, he has sent Facebook messages to my girlfriend that she's
I'm
here
going to
testify
tell you.
on.
I'm going to tell you that. You see how calm you are? Not him. You understand that? Not him. Probably not him, but definitely not him. And I'm going to just suggest to both of you that neither one of you want any other legal action. You already have a lifetime protective order issued against you in favor of Ms. Hancock. Yes. So I'm just telling you, I'd stay as far away from him, Mr. Martin, as I possibly could. Go a mile out of your way rather than go anywhere near where he is.
That's
fine.
That's what I'm doing,
now,
ma'am.
Mr. Jones, you have, and I've been around here for a long time, these kinds of buildings for a long time, you have an attitude. I can tell you have an attitude. And things may have been bad historically, but you know your behavior wasn't perfect historically. You would agree with that with Ms. Hancock, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
You would agree with that. Okay. And you're not a baby. I mean, it's not as if you're 21 years old anymore. And if you have that within you to have bad behavior against another person, that's there. Either you have it or you don't. And what I'm suggesting to you is that this is not going to be a good outcome if this animus continues. She's not your girlfriend anymore. He's got a new girlfriend. You don't have anything to do with him anymore. Nothing. If you have to travel a mile out of your way to avoid going anywhere where he gets lunch, coffee, a Jiffy Lube, or anything else, I would suggest that you do it.
I've done that. He keeps filing protective orders.
Good. Well, he can do that. So can you. And what I'm to try to temper it. If what you're going to do is to add fuel to this fire, then I think that it's really not a smart idea.
Just gonna, yeah.
The plaintiff will get his 47 videos back within 5 days. They will be dropped off at the local police precinct. What?
May I actually say there's only 21 that was ever given, so there's not 47.
How many do you have?
We have 19 of those games.
Okay, 19.
Yes.
You have any other property that belongs to him?
No.
No. Okay, we're done here. 19. 5 days. Police precinct.
This court is adjourned.
I'm disappointed because I've dealt with this man for over 2 years.
He's just jealous of my awesomeness.
I've moved on with my life. I have a new girlfriend, and I just want my things back.
Whatever. I just want him out of my life.
It's time to close the chapter. It's time to move on.
I never want to see him again. I never want to hear from him again.
People spend so much time with negative energy.
Oh, yes.
Sarah, if the one thing that you and all other single people out there can take away from this case is that women are supposed to be smart. And clearly, she had a nose for bad boys.
Yeah.
because according to what we heard, the reason she invited him to come and live with her was because the
different problem with a different
co-defendant, co-defendant, Mr. Jones, was really stalking her, and the same problem she had with the plaintiff. But stalking is an odd one. You have to be a little bit off to engage in stalking, to really terrorize somebody.
Especially to the level of legal action for stalking.
Yeah.
Because I know the standard for getting a restraining order, even a temporary one, is very high, the standard.
There has to be some pretty serious stuff that the judge reads. And he pled guilty. But Mr. Jones also acknowledged that he had not treated her well. So it's always sad to me when perfectly reasonable women, sometimes because of their need to nest, will choose subpar mates.
I think it's more important to hold on to your own energy than to allow it to seep into these negative wells that will just run you dry.
You're right.
Suing her former roommate, Lulu Onawaka, for a rental deposit, moving costs, and lost wages.
Ms. McRae, you were looking for a room, and you rented a room in defendant's apartment. It didn't work out. You were unhappy. She was unhappy. You moved out. And now you want return of rent, deposit, moving costs, lost wages, and emotional distress. She also said, didn't work out. We didn't like each other. It just wasn't a good fit. So you were happy she left. That's either a yes or a no. You were happy she left.
No, ma'am.
You weren't happy you wanted her to stay.
No, ma'am.
Then you were happy she left.
No, ma'am. I wasn't happy she left.
Oh, let me see. Let's see. Okay, this is what you say. Brittany, that would be you.
Yes.
This is your answer. Was messy, played loud music, brought friends in. After that, I let her know we weren't a good fit and would not be renewing her lease.
No.
Now, that's what you said.
We'll not be renewing the lease for the
apartment.
No.
Doesn't matter. I just read you something. I read you your answer. Now, does that sound somebody that was happy with their roommate?
I define happiness for myself. I've lived in co-living where I've had to live with people I do not like.
What?
And make it work is what I'm trying to say. So that wasn't the issue.
The damage she's referring to was actually me attempting to change the locks on the door. I was trying to change the lock because during my time away, all of my belongings.
Brittany McRae claims her former roommate, Lulu Onawaka, owes for a rental deposit, moving costs, and lost wages. Lulu is countersuing for property damage and storage fees.
Brittany was messy, played loud music, brought friends in unannounced. She damaged the washing machine, flooded the apartment, and without my consent offered to adopt someone's dog. After that, I let her know we weren't a good fit and wouldn't be renewing the lease. That's what you wrote. Do you want me to show that to you?
No, you are right, and that is what I wrote.
Absolutely. Well, then I don't know why you have a passive-aggressive attitude, because I'm the only one who's passive-aggressive. Then you were happy she left.
No.
Okay, well, you're ridiculous. Then weren't a good fit, and yet you were happy with that. And I don't have to define happiness.
Yes.
I know that if I lived with somebody who was messy, sometimes loud.
Okay.
He broke the dishwasher and flooded the apartment because they put regular soap instead of dishwashing soap into the apartment, and it sort of bubbles all over. Now, unless I was either married to that person or they were one of my family, I wouldn't be happy with them. If I had a tenant like that, I would say, oh my God, what did I get myself into? I want out of this.
Okay.
But you were happy.
No, I wasn't. I stand on that.
Okay, then you weren't happy.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's what I asked you. You could have saved me all this dramatic.
I paid $1,300 and a $300 deposit.
And you lived there for about a month?
I lived there for 26 days.
And things didn't work out. You had a big argument with her back and forth. And as a matter of fact, according to you, you left for a couple of days.
I did.
Yes, because you were unhappy there and felt threatened, felt uncomfortable, whatever it was. So you left for a couple of days. And when you came back, what was your intention when you came back? No, look, not so. Look at me. You left because you were unhappy. You came back. What was your intention when you came back?
I never left because I was unhappy. I left because I was evicted from the property by the defendant.
Just a second. So you didn't leave the apartment after this disagreement?
Yes.
You did?
I did.
Okay. Where did you go?
I actually stayed with my friend.
So you left?
Yes.
On what date?
I left on June 1st.
You
provide some backstory. on
I don't need
the
any
encounter.
backstories. I'm just trying to get to a mindset of why the two of you think that you have a lawsuit against each other. Why do you bother wasting your own time, wasting precious court time when you weren't happy in the apartment, you paid for a month's rent. Certainly, you're entitled to your security back if you cause no damage to the apartment. You lived there practically a month, and you're not entitled to any more money because she didn't give you 30 days notice because you were just as happy that
She had abandoned properties.
What?
She had abandoned properties.
Okay.
She damaged the door, and I lost my deposit as well.
That's a door. An outer door, a door to her room.
Yes.
The door to her room.
Yes, she did that.
You have a photograph of the damage.
Yes,
I'd like to see it.
Please bear with me. I'm going to find it quickly.
The damage she's referring to was actually me attempting to change the locks on the door. I left after I had been informed by the
Just
defendant.
a second. So you acknowledged the door was damaged while you were trying to change the lock on the door?
I was trying to change the lock because during my time away, all of my belongings were still in the property, correct?
Listen to me. Did you damage the door?
No. The doorknob was removed, but the door is not damaged.
The lock was removed?
The lock was removed.
All right, I'd
so
like
that
to see.
the defendant would no longer have access to my room, to which she actually did enter my room while I was away.
Okay.
I left because the defendant actually informed me that I would need to get out by that date. After requesting a full month of rent.
You can show me the damaged door and how much it was to repair it, and I want to see how much it was to repair it.
I don't have how much it was, but here is the lease agreement, and we paid $2,900 to be here for the security deposit.
Oh, she just took this out. That's nonsense. That's nothing.
I wasn't still able to get my deposit
Nothing.
back.
The agreement
I got
that
$1,700 back.
Understand this.
Okay.
This is not damage to the door. She took out a cylinder. All you have to do is put it back. Unless you have a receipt for somebody putting it back, you get
No, but
nothing.
that's what I'm saying. We didn't put
you
it
get
back. We
you
didn't
get
put it
nothing.
It's a maintenance request at the property.
I didn't ask. $300 security deposit. By the way, are you allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment? That's a yes or a no?
No.
Just a, hey.
No,
hey,
no,
don't look down. Don't look down. So the answer is you are not allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you are not allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment. She gets her deposit back. We're done. Thank you very much.
Court is adjourned.
I didn't concede to her requesting me to clean out a garbage at the apartment, and at that point, she lost her entire senses and asked me to move out of the apartment. Always pick your roommates more carefully.
Okay, so I don't have anywhere to go really on this case except to suggest that people who feel good, look like they have a job, look as if life is otherwise okay for them, and they move into this rental situation, which is very difficult. I never could understand it, to move time schedules. I always thought that was fraught with danger, and it keeps me in business here. But here you have two women that were both unhappy. You had an unhappy tenant, an unhappy landlord. You had a lease, but both of them were unhappy. It really didn't cost either of them anything. Plaintiff says she didn't get 30 days notice, so she should be compensated for $5,000 and her moving costs and storage
fees, some other things. It seemed like a wash to me when I read the papers. And to have your happiness after the end of constant struggle or battle with each other seemed like a win to me, but apparently it wasn't enough for them.
Apparently not. Well, unfortunate. But she's entitled to a security deposit back.
Tenant Miranda Miles for the cost of a French bulldog.
Mr. Parker, this case is about a puppy that you allegedly sold to the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
That you want to be paid for. She has some sort of nonsense counterclaim.
Yes.
Which I will get to and resolve quickly.
Great.
So, Mr. Parker, you have a home that has 2 units in it?
We have a triplex, so it's a house and then it's a triplex behind the house.
So you live in the main house?
Yes.
Behind the main house, there are 3 units?
Yes.
When did you rent one of the 3 units to the defendant?
I rented it to her around February. I think I put the ad in early February.
Of what year?
2022.
Is that correct, Ms. Miles, that you moved into the unit in approximately February of 2022?
It was March, but yeah.
You put the ad in February?
Yes, ma'am.
Moved in March. And what was the rent that you had?
$1,250.
Do you have children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old? You knew nothing about dog breeding.
Well, I know about dogs, but I didn't know about French bulldogs. That was kind of new to me.
What is your regular business, sir?
Property management.
Other than the property that you live in, do you have any other property that you manage?
Yes, ma'am.
You're really supposed to be sort of an expert before you go into the breeding business.
Yeah, well, I had
dog
a
breeding
lot of help.
business. That's sort of a foolhardy thing.
I had a lot of help. I wasn't by myself. I had people that was already breeding. They had 20 years.
Okay,
30
so
years
you had
experience.
somebody to
Yes,
give
ma'am.
you sort of instruction.
I didn't just jump into it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you decided to breed French Bulldogs.
Yes, ma'am.
You purchased your first 2 French Bulldogs, a male and a female, when?
I purchased them around January. The other female around February.
Okay, that's about the same time that you posted an ad for this unit that you moved into.
Yes, ma'am. All around the same
And
time.
that dog, I believe, based upon my recollection and my memory isn't what it used to be, I think the dog's name is Dolce.
Dolce, yes, ma'am.
How old was Dolce when you purchased her in February?
She was approximately 3 months.
How much did you pay for her?
I paid $3,200 for her.
And did you have AKC papers for her?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, according to your complaint, when the defendant moved in, she moved in March, she moved in with her 9-year-old daughter. The 9-year-old daughter saw this dog, Dolce, became attached to the dog, fell in love with the dog, and the defendant agreed to purchase the dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And you acknowledge that you agreed to purchase the dog.
Yes.
In March of 2022, how much did you agree to pay Mr. Parker for the...
Frankie Parker claims his tenant, Miranda Miles, owes for the cost of a French Bulldog. Miranda is countersuing for harassment and invasion of privacy.
Miss Miles, I want you to think more clearly. Try to be clear. He had just paid $3,200 for the dog.
I didn't know that.
So, according to you, he agreed to sell you the dog for $2,500.
Yes. And then he changed it to 35 when I moved in.
Oh, so before you moved in, he said 25, but after you moved in, he said 35. Yes. Did you agree to pay him the 35?
Yes.
Okay, so now you have an agreed price of $3,500, which sounds more reasonable than 25 because he paid more for the dog.
Yeah, that's not entirely true.
Okay, right now, she agreed to pay you $3,500.
Yes.
She doesn't understand from co-ownership. You're talking about breeding down the road. Did you pay him any part of the $3,500?
No.
Okay, now let's go further. Are you still living in the unit behind him?
Yes.
So now that's March, April, May, June, July, August. Did you pay March's rent?
Yes.
April?
Yes.
May?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
July?
Yes.
And August?
Not yet.
Did she pay everything except August so far?
Yes, but I had to take her to court to almost evict her to get the money.
Okay. When did you start eviction proceedings? In what month?
I started eviction proceeding in June.
How much behind in rent was she?
She was just that month, but she had been late 2 prior times. So.
Okay. How late is late?
Well, I give you a grace period up to the 4th. Sometimes it's like the 10th.
Sometimes it was like the 10th.
Yes.
So we're not talking of rent. She came up with the money.
Yes.
Now, we're August 5th. Now, did you pay your rent?
Not yet. Why? Honestly, I'm struggling. I'm unemployed right now, and he knows my situation with my bank and my account right now, and he knows why. I have no funds at this moment.
Oh, but that's his business.
I get it.
See, that's his business. Do you work?
Not at the moment.
Why?
Because I got fired.
Why?
Because I didn't have transportation, and I was.
So you didn't go. Well, if you don't go to work or if you come late, then you get fired.
Right, and I also have health problems that I've been going through as well.
That is also, Miss Miles, not his problem.
I know.
Now, I'm going to go back to something that Mr. Parker said, because I think that it's sort of important for me to be able to resolve with you a co-ownership of the dog, which would mean that you would share the litters if the dog was bred?
Yeah, he did. I wasn't very clear about it, but yes, he did. And I was willing to do that, so I was able to afford the dog.
That's going to help me resolve the issue. And you gave him no part of the $3,500?
No.
So, do you want to tell me what your defense is to this? Because your counterclaim is ridiculous. I don't even remember what it is. For harassment, slander, invasion of privacy?
He comes to my house, knocks on my door randomly all the time, every day.
Then move. Just a second. Then move.
He put cameras
on
all my neighbors.
Listen to me.
I don't have the money.
Listen to me. Move.
I don't have the money.
Well, that's, again, not his problem. He wants his rent on time, and he would like to be paid for his dog.
Right.
Okay, let's move on
to
something that's viable. Okay? Let's talk about this breeding of the dog, which I think would be absolutely ridiculous. Have you taken the dog to the vet?
Yes.
Dog's gotten its shots?
Absolutely.
originally agreed to?
No.
$3,500, judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
But, Your Honor, she's supposed to get full breeding rights.
I'm not giving her full breeding rights to anything. She can't take care of herself or her 9-year-old. She has no money. How is she going to breed a dog?
We can't do the co-ownership.
No, well, you're not doing a co-ownership, sir. She just bought the dog for $3,500. Period.
That wasn't the agreement.
Oh, just a second. You keep the papers. Do you understand?
Okay.
You keep the papers. She doesn't get the AKC papers.
Okay.
She keeps the dog, which means she's going to take care of the dog, get it spayed, do whatever she's supposed to do with the dog.
Okay.
You get $3,500, and don't make deals like this again.
Guess it didn't work out for me.
You know, I was trying to get the whole amount so we won't have to do a co-ownership anymore. So you can either get the dog, the whole rights to it, or just pay me out.
I think he was trying to help me pay for it, and that's why he said the co-ownership, because I was unable to pay for the whole $5,500.
The whole rights to it, or just pay me out, you know.
I think that's what he was trying to do.
But I think overall the judgment was fair.
We live next door, so we have to.
I hope that we can actually do this together, and
We're good. Me and him are good.
I hope it does run smoothly and we don't have any more, like, mishaps.
The case itself was easy, Sarah. Promised you buy the dog. Your daughter is in love with the dog. And he said, well, I can't pay for it. This time, the dog's attached, and he seems like a very, very nice man. But we had 2 little Maltese dogs once. I don't know if you remember them.
I remember the stories.
Do you remember the story? You were too young to remember the dogs. They were 2 little yappy Maltese dogs. And we thought it might be an interesting experience to breed. First of all, I remember after, and I think we had 2 or maybe 3 in the litter, and I couldn't leave them home. So I would take them in a box in my car to the courthouse and open the drawer and keep them in the drawer so that I could feed them, because this mother that wasn't a very good mother for the dogs, and she didn't want to be bothered feeding, so I had a bottle that they had to be fed every 2 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
It's
a full-time job.
It was a full.
You get involved.
It was a full-time job. That's it. But it was our last time. You really have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's really not fair for the dogs. That's one of the reasons why she did not get the AKC papers, because she's having a hard enough time taking care of herself.
And now she has a pet that...
For unpaid work and defamation of character.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, please.
Hello, Judge. Hi. Case number 2007, Sanchez versus Vasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sanchez, how old are you, sir?
I'm 26 years old.
And what is your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree in film that I got from Full Sail University. I'm currently...
Slowly.
I'm sorry.
You have a bachelor's degree from?
Full Sail University.
Where is that?
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, Florida. That I can hear. You have to understand, when you're dealing with someone of my age, you have to sort of factor that into your speech. People who are 26 may be able to follow you. I'm senior. I need people to speak slowly so that I can follow them.
I got you.
So you got a bachelor's degree from a university in Florida and graduated when?
I graduated in 2018.
And from there, what kind of work did you do?
From there, I jumped around a little bit. I did
Okay,
work...
you jumped around. Did your family live in Florida?
No, ma'am.
Where do they live?
They live in Beaumont, Texas.
Did you live with them at all in Beaumont?
No, ma'am.
After college?
Not until the pandemic.
Okay. Well, the pandemic was in 2020.
Yes.
So you graduated in June of 2018, and then the pandemic started on or about March of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
And in March of 2020, you went home to your parents' house.
Yes.
And you stayed there until when?
I'm still currently there. I started going back to school, actually.
When did you start going back to school?
My first classes were in December of last year.
In Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So you actually had a year and a half out of school when you were hopping around.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want you to tell me who you worked for in that year and a half.
I was an intern on a documentary.
Okay, and when was that?
That was about a few months after I graduated.
So maybe September, October?
Yeah, probably around there. I did a few independent films.
Okay, and what kind of work did you do for them?
Just kind of depended what they needed.
You paid as a PA?
They paid me $75 a day.
Pay you in cash?
They paid me in cash.
Okay, so you did those couple of little projects, and then what?
I was also waiting tables at the time.
Okay, well, you got to eat.
Right. After the pandemic hit, my lease was up. I moved back home. Decided I would go back to school to get a tech job. I'm going for cybersecurity right now. I had heard through a family friend.
Okay, let's stop there. This case is, I don't think so difficult, but relatively interesting for me because we don't get them all the time. Mr. Vasquez, you were making a movie.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this the first movie you ever made?
No, Your Honor.
How many movies have you made?
This was film number 5 for me. Written, directed, produced.
Is it a fiction piece or a documentary?
It's actually based on a true story.
So it's a docudrama.
Correct, yes.
See that? Are you impressed with that? There you go, a docudrama. How long a film?
90 to 100 minutes. We're still in post, still editing. So
Keep your voice up. Approximately how long?
100 minutes.
What was your budget?
It's still in
About what was your budget? Then you're going to tell me where you got the financing.
roughly 120,000.
Where did you get the money from?
A lot of it was my money and other producers.
How much did you put in?
Over 80,000.
And you've got other people in for about 40.
Yeah.
Did you make money on your other films?
I have, yes, in the past.
Okay, this is what the case is about. Mr. Sanchez says that he was hired by your company. And he was hired by your company to work on this last film that you were doing. And it was a paying job. And at the end of the period, he was not paid. And in addition, he says that when he complained about not being paid, you put out there on social media that you weren't paying him because he was on drugs. Is that what the case is basically about?
Basically. It wasn't on social media. It was through text messages he accused me of it, but...
I call it social media. I know. Okay. Did you answer an ad for this job?
No, I heard about it through a family friend.
And when did you meet Mr. Vasquez for the first time?
We didn't actually meet face-to-face until about Saturday, July 10th, 2021.
Did you communicate via text messages or
Yes, ma'am.
emails? Well, when was the first either text message or email?
The first text message was on Monday, the 28th, 2021 of June.
6/28, 2021. May I see that, please?
Of course. And this one, too. Sorry.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So you first met by email. You say you have one spot available for him as an internship, and then practically immediately thereafter, you say somebody's family is sick in the crew. You have a spot for him as an assistant director.
So, Your Honor.
I'm reading this. Well, you have to
Yeah.
tell me what that means. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick and they can't do it.
Correct.
So what is an AD?
He's basically going to assist me as a director, everything from...
Assistant to the director.
Correct.
Okay. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick. So that's different from an internship.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I mean, we do have internships where people don't get paid, and then you have internships where they do get paid. Most people now pay their interns. Okay. And when you met, because clearly the last email that I just read suggests that you were approaching the door and you're 2 minutes away, and then you met the defendant. Tell me about that conversation.
Christian Sanchez claims filmmaker Juan Vasquez owes him for unpaid work.
Read suggests that you were approaching the door and you're 2 minutes away, and then you met the defendant. Tell me about that conversation.
So we met, we sat down. I kind of told him a little bit about my background, like I told you before. He kind of went over like what he was expecting me to do.
Just a second. I want you to tell me what he told you that he wanted you to do.
Managing the set, creating schedules, calling extras, making sure that they were there on time.
Is that what you told him?
Yes, basically assisting me whatever I needed.
Okay. That sounds like more than a PA.
We didn't ask for PAs. There was no
No,
intention for PAs.
but what you outlined was clearly more. What did you agree to pay him?
Never agreed to pay him anything. So
Well, how could you do that?
he was an intern. He was presented to me as an intern.
No, not after this text message. He said he was looking for an internship, and you said to him, I have a better role for you. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick. Whose family was sick? The name of the person.
I don't recall.
Okay. When you did a budget, did you have a budget for a first AD?
No, we didn't.
Careful. Did you have a budget for a first AD?
No, not that I remember. I usually don't use a first AD. So the terminology.
No. Listen, you know who produces this show? You want to be careful with what you say around people, who are buying your product.
Sure.
Right? Because you're going to be presenting them with budgets, eventually, hopefully for you. There's no question that if I got this text from you, Mr. Vasquez, I would say, oh my God, I'm going to get a different job, a better role, because he says I have a much better thing. Somebody who was supposed to do it got sick, they can't do it. That's a much different thing from what you describe as bringing me iced tea and setting up the coffee. That's a different role. What did he, when you talked to me at that meeting, that day, what did he tell you he was going to pay you?
$150 per day for 14 days.
How many days did you actually work on the set?
On the set, I worked 14 days.
It's a lie.
I got COVID on the last 2 days, and he asked me to work from home. And I still scheduled and did all that stuff.
I never asked him to work from home.
You got COVID the last 2 days, so you were actually there 12 days.
Physically there, but I was still working for him.
Who knows? How do I know that?
I have text.
I would like to see the work that you did from home on day 13 and 14.
1,800 for 12 days, not including.
Okay.
On those specific days, I have it on my phone. Could I pull it up?
No, I want to see what you did. If you did work, you sent emails out, you sent scheduling out, and you would probably have to have a conversation with your boss and say, I have COVID, but I'll do whatever I could do from home.
I have all of that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, if I may interject.
Yeah.
So he shows up to the set sick with COVID, gets everybody sick. I had to call the next day of filming because of that.
Are you talking about after he was there for 12 days?
Yes, I'm talking about that particular part, but
I'm talking about he was there for 12 days. He didn't have COVID for 12 days.
we don't know that.
Well, who knows that? I don't know if you have COVID.
We just got tested, Your Honor.
Who knows if you have COVID? Who knows if I have COVID? All I know is I came to work today. I expect to be paid. I wouldn't come to work if I was sick and laying in bed and feeling nauseous and...
Your Honor, if you had a remote position, that'd be different. He didn't have a remote position.
I'm not talking about his 2 days. He was there 12 days.
He did it throughout the course of the project. He was never on time.
I don't care if he was never on time. If he was never on time, sir, then you fire him.
There was days he was not on set.
Listen to me.
Okay.
If he's never on time, then you tell him don't come back after the second day. But if you let him come for 12 days and do whatever he does, I mean, you know, Mr. Vasquez, I'm going to make this as painless for you as possible. There are some employees that I have had over the years that were terrific. I would have liked to have fired, period. I couldn't do it because of human resources.
Sure.
They have a whole protocol, volumes, like an Encyclopedia Britannica, what you have to go through to fire somebody who's not doing their job.
Right.
But you have to pay him until you can fire him. If you have him come to work, even if he's doing a terrible job, you still have to pay him. Now, if he goes home because he's sick and you're not giving him sick leave and you don't agree for him to work remotely, that's on him. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad. Unless, of course, you agree to have him work remotely, then you have to pay him for 14 days.
Right.
It starts right there, Your Honor, and then the next 2 days follow it.
JV, that's you?
Yes, ma'am.
JV, that's you. So you did, in fact, confer with him from home. Tell him to order food, to picking it up. I don't care if he worked for you for a half hour. He's not your friend. The thing that I find most troubling here, actually, for the both of you, is he says that you told him not to tell the rest of the crew that he had COVID because they would freak out.
Correct.
And he didn't tell the rest of the crew
as far
that
as
he
I
had
know.
COVID. Well, you told him not to. And he said, okay. Well, you have to know, as a good citizen, that's not the right thing to do. You do understand that.
And, you know, by not having him on the set, we thought that was proper protocol.
No, you're supposed to notify people who you came into close contact with. You know, I remember they had this whole contact tracing. I know people call all the time
the
and say,
reality
you know,
is, Your
we
Honor,
were out
everybody that
together
was
a month
on
ago.
the set.
What?
The reality is, everybody that was on the set, we did discuss the fact that he had COVID. So people, yeah, because I didn't want
understand
to
that you
create
don't want everyone to freak out. I just find that troubling. In any event,
it's just
he
like
clearly
yelling bomb in an airport. You know, that would have created a bigger hysteria.
Well, that's what COVID is. COVID is a bomb in an airport.
We conveyed to everybody on the set what was going on. The reality is, this man was presented as an intern, never said paid internship. Once he got on the set, he tried to strong-arm us, then demanded the money once he had all the information on the set. We didn't hire him. We didn't post a job for him. We made a job for him because a producer called me up. This is when nepotism goes bad. This kid couldn't even order pizza, Your Honor. He spent $300 at Domino's. Who spends $300 at Domino's?
Mr. Vasquez, then you fire him.
I should have
Do you
fired him.
understand?
I should have fired him.
Then your recourse is to fire him. And you're a little company that doesn't have an HR department. Say, you know what? What's your first name?
Christian.
Christian, you're a nice guy, but it's not working out here. I'm going to pay you for 3 days because that's what you were here. Don't come back. I'm going to get somebody else.
And you should have did that, Your Honor.
But that's what you should have done.
Yes.
But that's not what you did. You continued to use whatever limited services he provided, even when he was home with COVID.
Yes.
Even when he went home with COVID, you continued to ask him to do things for your company and for the film, and that you can't do without compensating him.
Christian Sanchez has accused his former employer, Juan Vasquez, of not paying him for 14 days of work. Juan claims Christian was incompetent and never a paid employee.
Okay, even when he went home with COVID, you continued to ask him to do things for your company and for the film, and that you can't do without compensating him. You can't. Okay, so you owe him $2,100 because I assume you paid him nothing. Now, let's get to the second part of your claim, which is defamation. That I'd like to see. I mean, if you're going to be a producer, if you're going to make films, sir, but
I agree.
not
I
working
should have
out,
fired
you're
him right away.
without
Never-
risking my house and my car and my dog.
I was taking him on as a basically.
I don't care what you were thinking.
Producer
That's
called
not what
me,
you said.
asked me to take him on. That's why I took him on.
He actually called me and told me how
Just
good
a
of a
second.
job I was doing.
It doesn't require an answer. Okay.
And I can show the messages how he came to be on the set. He was presented.
I don't care. Just a second. I don't care how he was presented to you. If your Aunt Tilly said, do me a favor, this is my godson.
It was his Aunt Tilly.
He hasn't been able to get a job since he graduated from college.
He hasn't been able to
He's
get a job
home.
since he graduated college.
He's home in the attic of his parents' house playing the
Lives with his
guitar.
parents.
We want him to have a job. It's irrelevant. You gave him a job. And if he didn't work out, say, what was the name of that woman from that show that says you're fired or something? Well, anyway, you say you're fired. That's easy. Do we remember the name of that woman from England who had a show where she said, you're out, get out? I don't know. She was terrific. Let me see.
The weakest link.
Weakest link. That was the lady. Perfect. Thank you.
And that's a direct text message to him. I never posted on social media.
Oh.
It was actually a group text.
Just a second. So, Mr. Vasquez, in here, you say to him, this is the second part of his case, which is for defamation. And that's okay. He didn't defame you.
Okay.
Sir, he said they're taking you out of the credits, but you were never promised credits.
In the contract, it says I am.
Let me see where in the contract it said you'd be in the credits. And I didn't even know there was a contract. I thought
He's
you had
also done this before.
Shh.
Oh, wait.
Shh. Shh.
Why would I sign an actor agreement for a first 80?
Just a second. Sir, is this the agreement he put in front of you? Or did you?
I sign actor agreements every day on the.
You're a business guy.
Yeah.
I'm a business lady.
That looked like an
I
actor
don't
agreement.
sign
That's why I signed it.
actor agreement. That's what it says.
Yeah. He's not an actor.
Don't sign it. It says you agree to pay him $150 a day for 4 days of shooting.
14.
14 days of shooting. And that he will be responsible for paying all the taxes on it. So he was going to be paid in
I didn't write that out, Your Honor.
Kevin, would you show this to him, please, and see if he can identify that as his signature? I'm going to check here to see if it's his signature. It looks like his signature to me. Mr. Vasquez, it appears to be the same signature that you used to sign the answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that's your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And this says, actors shall receive a credit for acting in the film. Well, that's ridiculous. You didn't act in the film, right?
No, ma'am.
Well, we're going to strike that out because you can't perform that because you didn't act in the movie. Do you understand?
I understand, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And it's clear that whatever this says, based upon this, if you delete one part of a contract, let me see if I remember, if part of a contract, Sarah, is impossible to perform,
Then it's not fully integrated.
and one party acts on that contract, and you can retain part of the contract because of services that were rendered pursuant to the contract, you can eliminate one part.
Yes.
So I can eliminate the actor part of getting credit. So you're not getting credit on this. You're entitled to the $150 a day. As far as the defamation is concerned, sir, what he said in here was clear. He said he was told by someone else, which is very possible. And the only thing that you can produce for me today is this fellow who said you tried to put together a little bit of a drug transaction. Are you?
No.
Well, then you're irrelevant. You can produce, because if he said.
Whenever I served him the night before, the very next morning he sent me that text message.
I don't care. I don't care. He's not a great businessman. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. Thank you very much. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
I thought she was very fair. I'm really, really happy with how the judgment came out.
He was an intern. Interns aren't paid. It never said paid internship.
He tried to avoid signing a contract at first.
The reality is, with a budget, we would love to pay the kid, but he cost us more money than he was actually worth.
He lies constantly. Nothing's ever his fault. He always makes up a new scenario in which he's the victim.
He couldn't even order pizza. I mean, who spends $300 at Domino's?
Handed me the actor's agreement, told me to sign it.
No more nepotism. If I don't know him, I've embedded him. I don't want them on the project.
A little bit weird, but it had everything.
And this kid is going to go be a cybersecurity guy.
Always save your receipts, dude. Always just keep any sort of communications, even if it's a phone call, send a text or an email that just recaps what you said.
I was so happy to vent for a moment on the current inability to fire inept people and to fire people who aren't doing their job, which has been getting worse over the last quarter century. I actually believe that HR is a vital service for people who are unjustly, based on something other than their performance, treated badly by an employer. Mm-hmm. And harassment in the workplace, I think, is important. Anyway, I got that out of my system. The contract.
Yeah, the contract. I think it was unenforceable to begin because I think the form was clearly erroneous. It wasn't the proper form. He wasn't an actor. Both of them knew he wasn't an actor. Right. However, it was signed by both parties, and there was substantial performance on behalf of the plaintiff by showing up to work every day, performing his duties under the contract. So as soon as he substantially performed the contract, the defendant can't then...
Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình với những video tô màu tranh nha. Và hôm nay bức tranh của chúng ta sẽ là về một cô gái này. Đây, mọi người hãy cùng mình bắt tay vào và tô màu thật đẹp nhé. Trước tiên thì mình sẽ tô chiếc áo nhé. Mình sẽ sử dụng màu cam để tô. Bây giờ mình sẽ tô chiếc vòng cổ và lắc tay nhé. Tiếp theo chúng mình sẽ tô màu cho màu tóc. Mình sẽ sử dụng màu nâu nhé. Mình sẽ sử dụng màu nâu nhạt để tô cho chiếc quần nhé. Mình đã cùng các bạn tô màu xong bức tranh rồi. Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem hết video này của mình. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo của mình nhé.